The wine glass shattered against marble, red liquid spreading like blood across Damian Morelli's $10,000 suit. The entire room went silent. Elena Cross, the nobody waitress who'd just ruined Chicago's most dangerous man, felt her knees buckle. She knew what happened to people who crossed the Morelli family. They disappeared. But when Damian's cold eyes met hers, he didn't order her death. He did something worse. He smiled. "Dance for us," he commanded, his voice silk over razor blades. "One waltz. Perfect. Or you're done." Elena's response shocked everyone. "If I finish without a mistake, you marry me." His laugh was the last sound before her world changed forever. Want to see how a terrified waitress becomes Chicago's most dangerous woman? Stay until the end. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far Elena's story travels. The Velvet Room wasn't the kind of place where accidents happened. Elena Cross had worked at the exclusive Chicago club for 8 months, and in that time, she'd perfected the art of being invisible. She moved through the mahogany-paneled corridors like a ghost, silver tray balanced on her palm, eyes down, breath shallow. The members liked it that way. Rich men didn't come to the Velvet Room to be bothered by the help. They came to make deals that would never appear in newspapers, to shake hands that sealed fates, to drink liquor that cost more than Elena made in a month. She was good at invisible. She'd been practicing her whole life. "Table 7 needs a refresh," Marcus barked from behind the bar. The head bartender was a compact man with graying temples and the kind of weathered face that suggested he'd seen things he'd never talk about. "Morelli party. Don't screw it up." Elena's stomach dropped. She knew that name. Everyone in Chicago knew that name. Even people like her who lived in the margins, who rode 3 buses to work, who counted quarters for groceries. Damian Morelli. The man who owned half the city, legally and otherwise. The man whose family had controlled Chicago's underworld since Prohibition. The man whose table she was about to approach with trembling hands. "I can't," she whispered. "Send Jessica," or Jessica called in sick again. Marcus thrust a bottle of Chateau Margaux toward her, the kind of wine that probably cost more than her rent. "You've been here 8 months. You can handle 1 table." That was the problem. Elena couldn't handle much of anything. She'd spent her whole life being the kind of person things happened to, not the kind who made things happen. When her mother died, she'd been too young to fight the foster system. When her little brother disappeared into it, she'd been too powerless to find him. When her last landlord tried to corner her in the stairwell, she'd moved instead of reporting him because she knew how those stories ended for girls like her. But she needed this job. The Velvet Room paid better than anywhere else that would hire someone with her resume, which was to say, no resume at all. No college. No experience. Just a pretty face that photographed well enough to get her through the door, and enough desperation to make her show up every night no matter how much her feet ached or her back screamed. She took the bottle. Table 7 sat in the corner booth, the one with the best view of the entire room. 4 men in suits that probably cost more than Elena's entire wardrobe. She recognized Damian Morelli immediately, though she'd only seen him once before from a distance. He was younger than she expected, mid-30s maybe, with dark hair swept back from a face that would have been handsome if it wasn't so cold. Sharp jaw, sharper eyes, the kind of stillness that predators had right before they struck. The other 3 men were older, thicker, with the look of people who'd done violence and would do it again without losing sleep. One of them was laughing at something Damian had said, but it was the wrong kind of laughter, nervous, appeasing. Elena approached with her eyes on the tray, focusing on keeping her breathing steady. She'd learned that trick years ago. When you're scared, when you're overwhelmed, when you're drowning, focus on something small. The tray, the glasses, the precisely measured pour. She was 3 feet from the table when someone grabbed her. Finally, one of the older men, the one with gray at his temples and a scar splitting his left eyebrow, said, pulling her closer by the wrist. His grip was too tight, fingers digging into bone. "We've been waiting 20 minutes. What kind of service is this?" "I'm sorry, sir." Elena's voice came out smaller than she wanted. "I was told—" "Do I look like I care what you were told?" He jerked her forward and the tray tilted. Everything happened in slow motion and too fast at once. The bottle tipped. Elena grabbed for it, overcorrected. The wine, Deep red, expensive, irreplaceable, arced through the air in a perfect crimson stream and landed directly across Damien Morelli's chest. The room didn't just go quiet. It went dead. Elena froze, the empty bottle still in her hand, watching the wine soak into white shirt and gray suit jacket. $2,000, maybe $3. Ruined. Because of her. Because of course it was her. Because terrible things always happened to Elena Cross, and she was never fast enough or strong enough or smart enough to stop them. "I'm sorry." The words tumbled out, barely audible. "I'm so sorry, I didn't... He grabbed me and I..." "She's lying," the scarred man said, releasing her wrist. Clumsy bitch wasn't watching where she was going. Damien Morelli hadn't moved. He sat perfectly still, wine dripping from his collar, those cold eyes fixed on Elena's face. She couldn't look away. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the overwhelming certainty that she was about to die. She'd heard the stories. Everyone had. The man who'd insulted Morelli's sister, found 3 days later in the Chicago River. The lawyer who'd tried to skim from a deal, discovered in his office with a bullet in his head and no witnesses. The rival family that had pushed too hard, wiped out in a single night. And Elena had just dumped wine all over him in front of his men. "Clean this up," Damien said finally. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. That was somehow worse than if he'd shouted. "Then come back." Elena ran. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold the towels Marcus thrust at her. "What the hell happened?" "He grabbed me," her voice broke. "That man grabbed me, and I dropped the bottle, and... Christ." Marcus scrubbed a hand over his face. "That was Salvatore, Damien's uncle. And you just blamed him for making you spill wine on his nephew." "But he did, Doesn't matter what he did. Doesn't matter what's true." Marcus's expression was bleak. "You contradicted a made man in front of his family. Do you have any idea what that means?" Elena did. She'd grown up in Chicago. She knew how these things worked, even if she'd spent her whole life trying to stay far away from them. You didn't cross the families, you didn't embarrass them, you definitely didn't make them look weak in front of each other. "What do I do?" The question came out as a whisper. "You go back. You apologize. You get on your knees if you have to." Marcus looked at her with something that might have been pity. "And you pray he's in a forgiving mood." But when Elena returned to table 7, clean towels in hand and an apology on her lips, Damien Morelli wasn't interested in forgiveness. He was leaning back in the booth, a fresh shirt on, someone must have brought it from somewhere, studying her like she was a problem to be solved, or a bug to be crushed. She couldn't tell which. "What's your name?" he asked. "Elena. Elena Cross." Her voice shook. She hated that, hated how small she sounded, how weak, but she'd never been good at pretending to be brave. "Elena Cross." He tasted the name, rolled it around. "How long have you worked here?" 8 months? And in 8 months, how many accidents have you had?" "None." It was true. She'd been terrified of making a mistake, so she'd been careful. So careful. Until tonight. "None," Damien repeated. "So this is your first, and it happened when my uncle grabbed you." What relief flooded through her. He'd seen it. He knew it wasn't her fault. Maybe... "That's an interesting story, Elena Cross. A convenient story." Damien tilted his head. "The problem is, I don't know if I believe it." The relief died. "I'm not lying. Maybe. Maybe not." He gestured to the empty space in front of the booth. "But here's what I do know. You embarrassed me. In front of my men, in front of my family. That's not something I can let slide. I'll pay for the suit." It was a stupid thing to say. She'd need 3 months' salary to cover it, maybe more. But she had to offer something. Damien laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. "I don't want your money, Elena. I want something more interesting." He stood up, and suddenly he was close. Too close. Elena could smell his cologne, expensive and subtle, could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "There's a piano over there," he said, pointing to the corner where a baby grand sat unused. "And you're going to dance. A waltz, the Blue Danube, do you know it?" Elena nodded, mute. Everyone knew the Blue Danube. "Good. You're going to dance it. Perfectly. No mistakes. While everyone watches." His smile was cruel. Think of it as penance, entertainment for the embarrassment you caused. I can't. The words came out automatically. I can't dance in front of people. I can't. You will, or you'll leave this club tonight and never come back. And Elena? He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. When I say leave, I don't mean find another job. I mean leave Chicago. Because if I see your face again after tonight, I'll remember how you made me look in front of my family, and I'll do something about it. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Elena's throat closed. Leave Chicago. Leave the only city she'd ever known, the only place she might ever find her brother again. Start over somewhere else with no money, no connections, no plan. Or dance. She'd rather die. But death wasn't what Damien was offering. He was offering humiliation, public degradation, the kind of thing that would make her want to die but wouldn't actually kill her. Something snapped in Elena's chest, something that had been bending and bending for years under the weight of every terrible thing that had ever happened to her. Every foster home, every lost opportunity, every moment when she'd been too scared to fight back. Fine, she heard herself say. I'll dance. Damien's eyebrows rose slightly. He hadn't expected her to agree. Excellent. Vincent, start the music. One of the men moved toward the piano. Elena's heart hammered so hard she thought she might pass out. Wait, she said. The word came out stronger than she felt. If I do this, if I dance perfect, no mistakes, I want something in return. The room got quiet again. Damien stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You want something, he repeated slowly. You, the waitress who just ruined a $5,000 suit, you think you're in a position to make demands. You're already going to humiliate me. Elena's voice still shook, but there was something else underneath it now, something desperate and reckless. If I'm going to be humiliated anyway, I might as well ask for something impossible. This should be interesting. Damien crossed his arms. What do you want, Elena Cross? She looked at him, at this man who controlled the city, who could end her life with a word, who was about to make her dance alone in front of cruel strangers for his entertainment, and she said the only thing that came to mind, the only thing crazy enough that it might work. If I finish the dance without a single mistake, you have to marry me. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Damien laughed. Actually laughed, the sound genuine and surprised. You want me to marry you? Yes? Why would I ever agree to that? Because you don't think I can do it. Elena's hands were still shaking, but her voice was getting steadier. You think I'm going to fail. You think I'm going to trip or freeze or run away. So it costs you nothing to agree. And if by some miracle I do finish perfectly, well, she shrugged. Then I've earned it. Damien studied her for a long moment. Elena had no idea what he saw. The terrified waitress, probably. The nobody who was about to make a fool of herself. She had no idea what she was doing. She'd never danced in front of people before. She'd barely danced at all, except in her tiny apartment late at night when she couldn't sleep, when the memories got too loud and she needed to move to stop thinking. Just her and the silence and the shapes her body could make. But that was different. That was private. This was going to be a disaster. All right, Damien said finally. You finish the dance, perfect and complete, and I'll marry you. You mess up even once, and you leave Chicago tonight. Deal? He extended his hand. Elena took it. His skin was warm, his grip firm. For just a second, she felt the weight of what she'd done crash over her. This wasn't some fantasy. This was real. She'd just made a bargain with the most dangerous man in Chicago, and in about 3 minutes, she was going to fail spectacularly. Deal, she whispered. Damien released her hand and stepped back. Vincent, the music. Everyone else, sit down and shut up. I want to watch this. Elena walked to the center of the floor. Her legs felt like water. The entire club was watching now, not just table 7, but everyone. Word had spread. The waitress who dumped wine on Damien Morelli was about to dance for his entertainment. The first notes of the Blue Danube filled the air. Elena closed her eyes. She thought about every terrible moment of her life, every time she'd been too scared to speak up, every time she'd let someone hurt her because fighting back seemed impossible, every night she'd cried herself to sleep in foster care, knowing her little brother was out there somewhere, knowing she was too weak to find him. She thought about the apartment she'd left that morning, the one with the leaking ceiling and the broken heat, about the bus ride where she'd counted the money in her wallet and wondered if she'd have enough for both rent and food this month, about Marcus's face when he told her to pray Damien was forgiving. She thought about being invisible, about being nothing. And then she started to dance. The first steps were mechanical. Count the beats. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Arms up, back straight. She'd learned the basic box step from a YouTube video years ago, some random night when she'd been trying to distract herself from thinking about everything she'd lost. But then something shifted. Elena had spent her whole life being afraid of taking up space, of being seen, of making mistakes. But here, in this moment, with everyone watching and everything on the line, she had nothing left to lose. She'd already fallen. This was just the floor rushing up, so she let go. Her body remembered things her mind didn't. The rhythm, yes, but also the feeling of the dance. The way a waltz was supposed to lift, to float, to turn the dancer into something graceful and untouchable. Her arms found the right positions without thinking. Her feet traced patterns on the polished floor like she'd done this 1,000 times. She had done it 1,000 times. In her apartment, in her head, every time she'd needed to escape. The music swelled. Elena spun, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't thinking about what people saw when they looked at her. She wasn't worried about making a mistake. She was just moving, just breathing, just existing in the space between one note and the next. She didn't see Damien's expression change, didn't see him lean forward, something like surprise flickering across that cold face. Didn't see his uncle's smirk fade, replaced by confusion. She was too far away, lost in the dance, in the only moment of freedom she'd ever given herself. The final notes played. Elena came to a stop, arms extended, chest heaving, eyes still closed. The room was silent. She opened her eyes and looked directly at Damien Morelli. His face was unreadable, but he was standing now, hands in his pockets, staring at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "Not a single mistake," he said finally. Elena's knees almost buckled again, but this time with relief. She'd done it. Somehow, impossibly, she'd done it. "So," she said, and her voice only shook a little, "I guess you have a wedding to plan." Damien walked toward her slowly, deliberately. When he reached her, he stopped close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met," he said quietly, "or the stupidest." "Maybe both," Elena admitted. Something that might have been a smile touched the corner of his mouth. "Maybe." He raised his voice. "Vincent, call Father Matteo. Tell him we need a ceremony. Tonight." Elena's stomach dropped. "Tonight? You wanted to marry me." Damien's expression was unreadable. "Let's not waste time." Sure. 2 hours later, Elena stood in a bathroom at the Velvet Room, staring at her reflection in the gilded mirror. Someone had brought her a dress, white silk that probably cost more than her monthly salary, fitted perfectly, like it had been made for her. How they'd found it on such short notice, she had no idea. She didn't want to know. Marcus had cornered her before she got to the bathroom. "What the hell did you just do?" "I don't know." It was the truth. "You can't marry Damien Morelli. You have no idea what you're getting into." "I have some idea." Elena looked at the dress hanging on the door. "He's dangerous. His family is dangerous. But I've been living in a studio apartment with cockroaches and working 3 jobs to make rent. How much worse could it be?" "So much worse," Marcus said. "Elena, people who marry into that family don't stay married long, they stay dead." "Then I'll be dead," she said, and was shocked by how calm she sounded. "But at least I'll have tried something. At least once in my life, I'll have taken a risk." Now, standing in the bathroom in the white dress, she wondered if Marcus was right, if this was the stupidest thing she'd ever done, if she'd just traded one kind of prison for another. The door opened. A woman walked in, tall, dark-haired, with the kind of beauty that looked expensive. Designer suit, perfect makeup, eyes that took in everything and gave away nothing. "Elena Cross," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, I'm Isabella, Damien's sister." She leaned against the counter, studying Elena like she was an exhibit in a museum. "I heard what happened, the wine, the dance, the marriage proposal." "It wasn't exactly a proposal," Elena said. "No, it was something more interesting. Isabella tilted her head. You know he's going to kill you, right? Eventually. When he gets bored, or when you become a liability, or just because he can. That's what the Morelli men do. Elena's throat tightened. Then why are you telling me this? Why not just let it happen? Because I like you. Isabella smiled, but it was sad. You're either brave or stupid, and I haven't seen either one in this family in a long time. So I'm giving you a chance. Walk away now. I'll make an excuse. Say you got cold feet. Damien will be angry, but he'll let you go. Will he? Probably not. Isabella's smile faded. But you'll have a better chance than if you go through with this. Elena looked at her reflection again. The white dress. The scared eyes. The girl who'd spent her whole life being afraid. I'm not walking away, she said. Then you're stupider than I thought. But Isabella didn't sound angry. She sounded resigned. All right. Let me help you with that dress. If you're going to marry my brother, you should at least look good doing it. The ceremony was short, brutal even. Father Matteo showed up looking uncomfortable, clearly aware he was officiating a marriage that had nothing to do with love and everything to do with a deal gone sideways. The only witnesses were Isabella, Vincent, Salvatore, whose expression throughout was pure contempt, and Marcus, who watched from the back of the room like he was attending a funeral. Maybe he was. Elena spoke her vows in a voice that barely carried. Damien spoke his in a tone that suggested he was reading a grocery list. The ring he slipped onto her finger was platinum and diamonds, probably worth more than anything she'd ever owned in her life. It felt like a shackle. You may kiss the bride, Father Matteo said, and he sounded sorry. Damien leaned in. Elena's breath caught. This was it, the moment that made it real. His lips brushed hers, cold and perfunctory, over in seconds. When he pulled back, his expression hadn't changed at all. Congratulations, Mrs. Morelli, he said. Welcome to the family. And Elena realized with perfect crystalline clarity that she had no idea what she'd just done. The Morelli estate sat on the north side of Chicago, behind gates that could stop a tank and walls that had probably seen things Elena didn't want to imagine. The car ride from the Velvet Room had been silent except for the sound of tires on wet pavement and her own breathing, which she kept trying to quiet because it sounded too loud in the leather interior of Damien's Mercedes. He hadn't spoken to her since the ceremony ended, hadn't looked at her, just gestured for her to follow, and she had, because what else was she going to do? Run? In a white silk dress and borrowed heels, with nowhere to go and no one waiting for her? The house, mansion, really, was all stone and dark windows, the kind of place that looked like it had secrets buried in the foundation. Literally, probably. Elena's hands were cold despite the June heat. Vincent will show you to your room, Damien said as they stepped into an entrance hall that could have fit her entire apartment 3 times over. Marble floors, a staircase that curved up into darkness, paintings on the walls that looked old and expensive. My room? Elena's voice came out small again. She hated that, hated how this place made her feel like she was shrinking. Not our room? Damien finally looked at her. Did you think this was a real marriage? You said vows. I'm wearing your ring. I said words. You're wearing jewelry. His expression was flat. This is a deal, Elena. You danced? I kept my end of the bargain. But don't mistake a transaction for something it's not. The words stung more than they should have. She'd known what this was, known it wasn't love or romance or any of the things marriages were supposed to be. But hearing him say it so bluntly, so coldly, made the ring on her finger feel heavier. Understood, she said. Good. Vincent, second floor, east wing. Make sure she has everything she needs. Damien turned and walked away, disappearing through a door that closed with a quiet click. Vincent, the man from the club, the one who'd started the music, stepped forward. He was younger than Salvatore, maybe 40, with a face that suggested he'd been handsome once before life had worn him down. This way, Mrs. Morelli. The title sounded wrong, like a costume that didn't fit. Elena followed him up the staircase, her heels clicking on marble, echoing in the cavernous space. The second floor was all dark wood and closed doors, hallway after hallway branching off like a maze. East wing is yours, Vincent said, stopping in front of a door at the end of a long corridor. Mr. Morelli's quarters are in the west wing. Kitchen is downstairs, first door on the left. There's a housekeeper, Mrs. Chen. She'll be in at 7 tomorrow morning. Don't go into the basement. Don't go into Mr. Morelli's office. Don't answer the door if someone rings. Any questions? About 1,000. But Elena just shook her head. Right. Vincent opened the door. Welcome home. The room was bigger than her old apartment. King-size bed with a dark blue comforter, matching curtains, a desk by the window, an ensuite bathroom visible through another door. Tasteful, impersonal, like a hotel room for someone with money. There was a suitcase on the bed. Elena stared at it. We sent someone to collect your things, Vincent said, reading her expression. Everything from your apartment. Landlord's been paid through the end of the month. Lease is terminated. You won't be going back. Of course they had. Of course they'd already erased her old life, efficient and thorough. Elena wanted to feel angry about it, violated maybe, but mostly she just felt tired. Thank you, she said, because what else was there to say? Vincent nodded and left, closing the door behind him. Elena stood alone in her new room, in her wedding dress, in a house that felt like a tomb, and wondered what the hell she'd gotten herself into. She didn't sleep that night, just lay on top of the covers, still in the dress, because she was too exhausted to take it off, staring at the ceiling and listening to the sounds of the house, pipes groaning, footsteps somewhere below. Once voices raised in argument, too muffled to make out words. When dawn finally broke through the curtains, Elena dragged herself to the bathroom and stood under the shower until the water ran cold. The face in the mirror afterward looked like a stranger's. Dark circles under her eyes, hair plastered to her skull, the same scared expression she'd worn her whole life. She dug through the suitcase someone had packed for her, found jeans and a t-shirt that felt more like armor than the silk dress had, and ventured downstairs. The kitchen was enormous, all granite counters and stainless steel appliances that looked like they'd never been used. A small woman with graying hair stood at the stove, humming to herself. Mrs. Chen? Elena ventured. The woman turned, took one look at Elena, and smiled. You must be the new Mrs. Morelli. I heard about the wedding. Quite the story. I'm sure. Elena wasn't sure what else to say. Is there coffee? Fresh pot on the counter. Help yourself. Mrs. Chen went back to whatever she was cooking. Eggs, from the smell. Mr. Morelli already left for the day. Won't be back until late. Of course he did. Of course he'd left without a word, without instructions, without anything. Elena poured herself coffee and tried not to feel abandoned, which was stupid because she barely knew the man. What am I supposed to do? The question came out before she could stop it. Mrs. Chen looked at her with something like sympathy. Whatever you want, dear. Your family now. This is your home. But it didn't feel like home. It felt like a very expensive prison, and Elena was just another inmate. The first week passed in a blur of nothing. Elena wandered the house like a ghost, opening doors, exploring rooms that ranged from tasteful to opulent. A library with floor-to-ceiling shelves. A gym that looked like it belonged in a commercial facility. A dining room with a table that could seat 20. She saw Damien exactly 3 times. Once in passing, when he came home late and she was getting water from the kitchen. He'd nodded at her like she was a stranger. Once at breakfast on day 4, where they'd sat in silence while Mrs. Chen bustled around them, the only sound being silverware on china. And once on day 6, when she'd accidentally walked into his office looking for the bathroom and found him on the phone, speaking rapid Italian to someone who was clearly pissing him off. He'd looked at her, pointed at the door, and she'd fled. You need to eat more, Mrs. Chen said on day 7, frowning at Elena's mostly untouched lunch. You're too thin. I'm fine. You're not fine. You look like you're about to blow away. The housekeeper sat down across from her, which felt wrong, like they should have some employer-employee boundary, but Elena was too lonely to care. What's wrong, sweetheart? Everything. Nothing. Elena didn't know where to start. I don't know what I'm doing here, she said finally. I don't know what I'm supposed to be. You're supposed to be his wife. But I'm not. Not really. Elena twisted the platinum ring on her finger. He doesn't talk to me, barely looks at me. I'm just here, taking up space in his house. Mrs. Chen was quiet for a moment. The Morelli men, she said finally, aren't like other men. They don't know how to be soft, don't know how to let people in. Mr. Damien especially. His father was hard on him, and his father's father was worse. They raise their boys to be stone. I'm not asking him to be soft, Elena said. I'm just asking him to acknowledge I exist. Give it time. But time was the problem. Elena had too much of it. Too many hours in a day with nothing to do, no purpose, no direction. She'd spent her whole life working. 3 jobs, sometimes 4, every moment accounted for. Now she had nothing but empty rooms and silence. On day 8, Isabella showed up. Elena was in the library, staring at books she couldn't focus on reading, when she heard heels clicking on marble. Then Isabella appeared in the doorway, dressed in black slacks and a cream blouse, looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine. "You look terrible," she said by way of greeting. "Thanks. I'm serious. Have you left this house since the wedding?" Elena shook her head. "Have you done anything except mope around feeling sorry for yourself?" That stung. "I'm not moping. You absolutely are." Isabella crossed the room and pulled Elena to her feet. "Get dressed. Something nice. We're going out." I don't care what you think. You're coming with me." Isabella's expression softened slightly. "Look, I get it. This family is overwhelming. The house is overwhelming. Damien is overwhelming. But you can't just hide in here forever. You'll go crazy." She wasn't wrong. 20 minutes later, Elena found herself in Isabella's car, a sleek Audi that probably cost more than Elena used to make in 5 years, heading toward downtown Chicago. "Where are we going?" Elena asked. "Shopping. Lunch. Maybe a spa if I can fit it in." Isabella glanced at her. "You need clothes. Real clothes. Not whatever you brought from your old apartment." Elena looked down at her jeans. "What's wrong with these?" "Nothing, if you're trying to look like you still work at the Velvet Room. But you're a Morelli now. You need to look like one." The boutiques Isabella dragged her to were the kind of places Elena had walked past her whole life without ever considering going inside. Places where there were no price tags because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. The sales associates called Isabella by name, brought champagne without being asked, treated Elena like she was someone important just because she was standing next to Damien's sister. "Try this on," Isabella said, thrusting a dress at her. Black, simple, elegant. Elena emerged from the dressing room feeling like an imposter. The dress fit perfectly, hugged her body in ways that made her look taller, more confident. But it wasn't her. Was it? "We'll take it," Isabella told the associate. "And the blue one, and those pants, and that jacket." "Isabella, this is too much. It's not enough, trust me." Isabella studied her critically. "You need to understand something about this family, Elena. Appearance matters. How you dress, how you carry yourself, who you're seen with. Everything sends a message. Right now you're sending the message that you're still that scared waitress. You need to send a different message." "What message?" "That you belong here. That you're not going anywhere." Isabella's smile was sharp. "That you're someone to be taken seriously." Lunch was at a restaurant with a view of the lake, the kind of place where every table held people who looked important. Lawyers, probably. Business people. Politicians. Isabella seemed to know half of them, waving and smiling and making Elena feel even more out of place. "Stop slouching," Isabella murmured over her wine. Elena straightened. "And stop looking at the floor. You're not invisible anymore." That was the problem. Elena had spent so long trying to be invisible that she didn't know how to be anything else. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Helping me. You could have just let me rot in that house." Isabella was quiet for a moment. "Because I know what it's like," she said finally. "To be underestimated. To be treated like decoration instead of a person. The men in this family, they don't see women as equals. They see us as assets, liabilities, things to be protected or controlled." She met Elena's eyes. "But that doesn't mean we have to accept it. Damien's your brother, and I love him, but I also know what he is." Isabella took a sip of wine. "He's dangerous, Elena. Cold. He's been trained since birth to be ruthless, to never show weakness. That dance you did, that bargain you made, it caught him off guard, made him curious. But curiosity fades. Eventually, he'll either lose interest or he'll see you as a problem." "Then why let me marry him at all? You could have stopped it." "Because you're the first interesting thing to happen to this family in years." Isabella smiled. "And because I'm curious too. I want to see what you do next. They returned to the estate late afternoon, Elena's arms full of shopping bags that represented more money than she'd ever spent on clothes in her life. Isabella dropped her off with a kiss on the cheek and instructions to stop hiding in that library. The house felt different somehow. Less like a prison, maybe. Or maybe Elena was just too tired to care. She was unpacking the new clothes when she heard shouting from downstairs. Male voices, raised in anger. One of them was Damien, the other sounded like Salvatore. Elena froze, expensive dresses forgotten. A liability, Salvatore was saying. A joke. You married a nobody waitress because she tricked you into it, and now the whole city is laughing. Let them laugh. Damien's voice was cold. It doesn't change anything. It changes everything. It makes you look weak, makes us look weak. Salvatore's voice got louder. She doesn't belong here. Send her away, pay her off, whatever. Just get rid of her before she causes real problems. She's my wife. She's a mistake, and the longer you keep her around, the worse it gets. A pause. Carlo thinks we should handle it permanently. Elena's blood went cold. Handle it permanently. That wasn't subtle code. That was a threat. Carlo can think whatever he wants, Damien said, but he won't touch her. Why not? You don't even like her. You barely talk to her. What's the point of keeping her alive if she's just taking up space? The silence that followed lasted too long. Because she's mine, Damien said finally, and there was something in his voice Elena couldn't identify. And no one touches what's mine. Tell Carlo if he has a problem with my wife, he can take it up with me directly. More silence. Then footsteps. A door slamming. Elena stood in her room, heart racing, hands shaking. They wanted her dead. Damien's own family wanted her dead, and the only thing stopping them was, what? Pride? Ownership? She wasn't safe here. She'd never been safe here. That night, Elena couldn't sleep again. She kept thinking about Salvatore's voice, about the casual way he'd suggested killing her, about how Damien had defended her only because she was his property. Around 2 a.m, she gave up and went downstairs for water. The house was dark, except for a light coming from under the door of Damien's office. She should have kept walking, should have gotten her water and gone back to bed. But something made her stop outside the door, made her listen. Damien's voice, low and tired. I don't care what the other families think. The marriage stands. A pause. Someone on the phone then. Because I gave my word. That still means something. Another pause. No, she's not a problem. She's barely here, spends all day in the library or hiding in her room. His voice got harder. If Carlo makes a move against her, I'll take it as a move against me. Make sure he understands that. He hung up. Elena heard footsteps approaching the door and barely had time to move before it opened. Damien stood there in shirt sleeves, tie loosened, looking exhausted. When he saw her, something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or annoyance. Can't sleep? He asked. I heard voices earlier, you and Salvatore. You were listening. I heard him say Carlo wants to kill me. Elena's voice shook. Is that true? Damien studied her for a long moment. Carlo's an idiot. He thinks you're a liability. He's wrong. Am I? A liability? I don't know yet. He leaned against the door frame. You're definitely a complication I didn't plan for. You could divorce me, annul the marriage, say I didn't. Elena stopped. Say it wasn't consummated. That would make it easier, right? Is that what you want? No. The answer came immediately, surprising her. She didn't want to go back to her old life. Didn't want to go back to counting quarters and working 3 jobs and being invisible. But she also didn't want to die. I want to be safe, she said. Then stay out of sight. Don't make trouble. Don't give Carlo or anyone else a reason to notice you. Damien's expression was unreadable. And don't listen at doors. You might hear something you can't unhear. He closed the door in her face. Elena stood in the hallway, trembling with something that felt like anger. Stay out of sight. Don't make trouble. Be invisible. She'd been invisible her whole life. And where had it gotten her? Into a marriage with a man who saw her as a complication. Into a house where his family wanted her dead. Maybe Isabella was right. Maybe she needed to send a different message. The next morning, Elena came down to breakfast wearing one of the new dresses Isabella had bought her. Black, simple, expensive. She'd done her hair, put on makeup, just enough to look polished instead of terrified. Mrs. Chen did a double take. "Don't you look lovely?" Damien was already at the table, reading something on his phone. He glanced up when she entered, and for just a second something changed in his expression. Then it was gone, back to the usual cold distance. "Good morning," Elena said, pouring herself coffee. "Morning." He didn't look up again. They ate in silence. Elena forced herself to sit straight, to not fidget, to act like she belonged at this table. After 10 minutes, Damien stood to leave. "I want to learn," Elena said. He stopped. "Learn what?" "Whatever I need to know to survive here." She met his eyes. "You said I should stay out of sight, not make trouble. But your uncle said I make you look weak, so hiding doesn't work either. I need to learn how to be what this family expects." Damien stared at her. "And what do you think this family expects?" "I don't know. That's why I'm asking." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, typed something, and put it away. "Someone will be here tomorrow morning at 8. Don't be late." "Someone who?" "A teacher." Damien headed for the door. "You want to learn? Fine. But don't complain when you realize what you're asking for." The teacher arrived at 7:55 the next morning. Elena was waiting in the entrance hall, nervous and curious and terrified all at once. The woman who walked through the door looked like she could kill someone with her car keys. Tall, lean, maybe 50, with silver-streaked hair pulled back tight and eyes that missed nothing. She wore all black and moved like a dancer, or a soldier. "Elena Morelli?" she asked. "Yes." "I'm Nina. Mr. Morelli hired me to teach you self-defense." She looked Elena up and down. "You're smaller than I expected." "Is that a problem?" "Depends. Come with me." Nina led her to the gym Elena had discovered her first week. She'd avoided it since then, intimidated by all the equipment she didn't know how to use. But Nina moved through it like she owned the place, grabbing boxing gloves and pads from a cabinet. "We're starting with the basics," Nina said. "How to stand, how to breathe, how to throw a punch without breaking your hand." She tossed the gloves at Elena. "Put those on." For the next 2 hours, Nina put her through hell. Punches, kicks, blocks, footwork. Elena's muscles screamed. Her lungs burned. She fell twice, got back up, fell again. "You're too tense," Nina said. "Stop thinking so much. Your body knows what to do if you let it." "My body wants to collapse." "Then collapse after we're done. Again." By the time Nina finally called it quits, Elena could barely stand. Every part of her hurt. But there was something else underneath the pain, something that felt almost like power. "Not bad for day one," Nina said, tossing her a towel. "You're weak, but you're coordinated. That dance training helps." "How did you know about that?" "Mr. Morelli told me. Said you have balance, rhythm, spatial awareness. That's more than most people start with." Nina packed up the equipment. "Same time tomorrow. And don't skip meals. You need to build muscle, not lose weight." Elena showered and changed, then collapsed on her bed for what she planned to be 5 minutes and turned into 3 hours. When she woke, it was late afternoon, and her phone was buzzing. Isabella. "How was Nina?" "You knew?" "Damien called me this morning, asked if I thought you could handle it." Isabella sounded amused. "I told him you were tougher than you looked. Was I right?" Elena thought about the punches, the falls, the way her hands still shook from exhaustion. "I don't know yet." "Well, you'll find out. Nina doesn't go easy on anyone." A pause. "There's a family dinner tomorrow night. You need to be there." Elena's stomach dropped. "What kind of dinner?" "The kind where you meet everyone. Carlo, Salvatore, the cousins, some associates. Damien's hosting. It's tradition, once a month." Isabella's voice got serious. "Wear something nice. Don't let them see you're scared. And whatever you do, don't mention the wine incident." The family dinner was exactly as terrible as Elena had imagined. The dining room she'd discovered her first week was filled with people who all looked at her like she was an unwelcome surprise. Carlo was there, a man in his 60s with dead eyes and a smile that never reached them. Salvatore, who hadn't softened his opinion of her at all based on his scowl. 4 cousins whose names Elena immediately forgot. And 3 men Isabella identified as associates, which Elena understood to mean people who worked for the family in capacities that probably weren't legal. Damien sat at the head of the table. Elena was placed at his right, which felt like being put on display. "So this is the famous Waitress," Carlo said once everyone was seated. "The one who trapped my nephew into marriage." "I didn't trap anyone," Elena said quietly. "No? Then what would you call it?" "A dance," Carlo laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. "A dance. How poetic." He leaned forward. "Tell me, Elena, what exactly do you bring to this family? Besides embarrassment?" The table went quiet. Everyone was watching her, waiting to see if she'd crumble. Elena thought about Nina's words. "Stop thinking so much. Let your body know what to do." "I bring nothing," she said. "Yet. But I'm learning." "Learning what? How to spend our money? How to play house? How to survive?" Elena met his dead eyes. "Isn't that what everyone in this room does? Survive?" Salvatore made a disgusted sound. Damien surprisingly smiled. Just a little, just at the corner of his mouth, but it was there. "She has a point," Isabella said from across the table. "We're all just trying not to get killed." "Some of us more successfully than others," Carlo muttered. The rest of the dinner passed in tense silence, broken by occasional conversation that Elena wasn't part of. Business talk, family politics, references to people and situations she didn't understand. She ate mechanically, focused on not making noise, not drawing attention, not giving Carlo another opening. When it finally ended and everyone dispersed, Elena fled to her room like the building was on fire. She was sitting on the bed, still in her dress, when someone knocked. Before she could answer, the door opened. "Damien." "You did well tonight," he said. Elena stared at him. "Carlo called me an embarrassment." He calls everyone an embarrassment. It's his default setting. Damien leaned against the doorframe, the same casual pose he'd had that night in the hallway. "But you didn't cry, didn't run, didn't make excuses. That's more than most people manage their first family dinner. Is that supposed to make me feel better?" "No. It's supposed to make you understand what you're dealing with." He was quiet for a moment. "Nina says you're a fast learner, that you don't give up, even when you're exhausted. Is that true?" "I don't know. I've never done anything like that before." "Then keep doing it. Keep learning." Damien straightened. "You were right this morning. Hiding doesn't work in this family. If you want to survive here, you need to be strong enough that people think twice before coming after you. And you think I can be that strong?" "I think you danced a perfect waltz in front of a room full of strangers who wanted to watch you fail," Damien said. "So yes, I think you can be whatever you decide to be." He left before Elena could respond. She sat alone in her room, heart racing, mind spinning. For the first time since the wedding, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she'd done something right. The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm. Nina every morning, pushing Elena until she wanted to scream. Afternoons spent with Isabella, learning how to dress, how to talk, how to carry herself like someone who belonged in this world. Evenings alone, usually or occasionally at dinner with Damien, where they'd sit in that same companionable silence that wasn't quite hostile anymore. Elena's body changed. Muscles she didn't know she had started to show through. Her hands got harder, calloused from punching bags and blocking strikes. She stood differently, walked differently, took up more space. But the real change was inside. The fear that had followed her whole life started to feel less suffocating. Not gone, it would never be gone, but manageable, like something she could carry instead of something that carried her. "You're different," Mrs. Chen said one morning, watching Elena demolish a plate of eggs after training. "Stronger. I'm trying." "It shows." The housekeeper smiled. "Mr. Morelli notices too." "What do you mean?" "I mean, he asks about you, what you're doing, how training is going. He acts like he doesn't care, but he does." Mrs. Chen patted her hand. "He's just not good at showing it." Elena didn't know what to do with that information, so she filed it away and kept going. 2 months after the wedding, everything changed again. Elena was in the library, actually reading this time instead of staring at pages, when Salvatore walked in. She knew immediately something was wrong. He looked too pleased with himself. "Damien wants to see you," he said. "In his office. Now." Her stomach dropped. "Why?" "You'll find out." She followed him downstairs, heart racing, trying to remember everything Nina had taught her. Stay calm, breathe, don't show fear. Damien's office was full. Carlo was there, along with Vincent and two men Elena didn't recognize. Damien stood behind his desk, expression unreadable. Close the door, he told Salvatore. Elena's hands were shaking. She clasped them behind her back so no one would see. We have a situation, Damien said. And apparently, it involves you. What situation? Carlo stepped forward, and Elena saw what he was holding. A photograph. He tossed it on the desk. Elena looked at it and felt the floor drop out from under her. It was a boy, 16, maybe 17, thin, with dark hair and eyes that looked familiar because they were her eyes. That's my brother, she whispered. Your brother, Carlo repeated. Michael Cross, currently residing at a juvenile facility downstate, arrested 3 months ago for armed robbery. He smiled. Did you know about that, Elena? She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Michael, her baby brother, the one she'd lost to the foster system when she was 18 and he was 12, the one she'd spent years trying to find, trying to save. No, she managed. I didn't know. I've been looking for him for years. Where? It doesn't matter where, Damien interrupted. What matters is that now my enemies know he exists, and they're threatening to use him against me, against us. Elena looked at him. What does that mean? It means, Carlo said, that your presence in this family has officially become a liability, just like I said it would. Elena's throat closed. She couldn't take her eyes off the photograph, off Michael's face. He looked older than she remembered, harder, but it was him, her baby brother, the one she'd promised to protect and then lost. Where is he? She asked. That's not the question you should be asking, Carlo said. The question is what we do about him. We protect him. The words came out automatically. Carlo laughed. Protect him? He's a criminal, a nobody. And now he's being used as leverage against this family because you couldn't stay in your place. I didn't ask for this. Elena's voice was shaking, but she couldn't stop it. I didn't know he'd been arrested. I didn't know anyone would find him. But they did find him, Salvatore said from behind her. The Volkov family found him, and now they're threatening to kill him unless Damien backs out of the dockyard deal. Elena turned to Damien. He was watching her with that unreadable expression, the one that made her feel like she was being weighed and measured and found wanting. What's the dockyard deal? She asked. None of your concern, Carlo snapped. It's very much her concern now, Damien said quietly. The Volkovs are Russian. They've been trying to muscle into our territory for the past year. The dockyard gives us control over shipping routes they want. It's worth about $20 million annually, plus strategic advantages they can't afford to lose. And they think threatening my brother will make you back down? They think you're my weakness. Damien's eyes never left hers. They think I care enough about you to sacrifice business interests to keep you happy. The word shouldn't have hurt. Elena had known for months that this marriage was a transaction, that Damien saw her as a complication at best, but hearing him say it so baldly, in front of his family, made something crack in her chest. So what happens now? She asked. Now we decide if your brother is worth protecting, Carlo said. Personally, I say we cut our losses. Let the Volkovs have him. Send a message that we don't negotiate. No. Elena's hands curled into fists. You can't just abandon him. We can do whatever we want. He's not family. I'm family, and he's my brother. You're barely family yourself, Salvatore muttered. Damien held up a hand. The room went silent. Everyone out, he said. Except Elena. Carlo looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Damien's expression stopped him. Vincent ushered the others out, closing the door behind them with a quiet click. Elena and Damien stood alone in his office, the photograph of Michael still on the desk between them. Sit down, Damien said. I'd rather stand. Sit down. Elena sat. Her legs were shaking anyway. Damien walked around the desk and leaned against it, arms crossed. Tell me about your brother. Why does it matter? Because I need to know if he's worth the trouble. When Elena opened her mouth to protest, he continued. I'm not asking if you love him. I'm asking if he's someone we can trust, someone who won't cause more problems than he solves. Elena thought about Michael, about the last time she'd seen him, 7 years ago in a foster home in Gary. He'd been 10, small for his age, with the same tendency to flinch that Elena had. Their mother had just died. The state was splitting them up. Elena had promised she'd come back for him as soon as she turned 18, as soon as she had enough money saved. But 18 had come and gone. The money had never materialized, and Michael had disappeared into the system. I don't know, she admitted. I haven't seen him since he was 10. I don't know who he is now. Then why should I risk my position for him? Because he's all I have left. Elena's voice broke. Because I failed him once, and I can't do it again. Damien was quiet for a long moment. The Volkovs gave us 48 hours. After that, they execute him and leak information about the dockyard deal to our competitors. Elena's stomach turned over. You have 48 hours to decide if my brother lives or dies. No, I have 48 hours to decide if saving him is worth starting a war. Damien straightened. The smart play is to cut our losses. Carlo's right about that. But the smart play leaves you with a dead brother and a lot of resentment. And you care about my resentment? I care about keeping my household stable. You've spent 2 months learning to fight, learning to adapt. You're finally becoming useful. I'd rather not waste that investment. His expression didn't change. So I'm going to make you an offer. Elena waited. I'll get your brother out, but you're coming with me. What? You heard me. This isn't a rescue mission I can delegate. If I send anyone else, the Volkovs will know we're moving and kill him before we arrive. It has to be me, and it has to be quiet. Damien moved to the window, looked out at the estate grounds. But I'm not leaving you here where Carlo can decide you're more trouble than you're worth. You come along. You follow orders. You don't slow me down. I can do that. Can you? He turned back to her. Because this isn't training with Nina. This is real. People will try to kill us. If you freeze, if you panic, we both die. And your brother dies. Can you handle that? Elena thought about the past 2 months. The bruises, the exhaustion, the way her body had learned to move without her mind getting in the way. She thought about Nina's voice in her head. Stop thinking. Let your body know what to do. I can handle it, she said. Damien studied her. All right. We leave in 2 hours. Pack light. Wear dark clothes. And Elena? He waited until she met his eyes. If this goes wrong, don't expect me to die for you. I'll get you out if I can, but my life comes first. Understood. Good. Now get ready. Elena made it back to her room before the shaking started. She sat on the bed, hands pressed to her mouth, trying to breathe through the panic. Michael was alive. Michael was in danger, and she was about to walk into a situation that could get them all killed. The knock on her door made her jump. Isabella walked in without waiting for permission. Damien told me what's happening. Then you know it's insane. Completely. Isabella sat next to her. But it's also the right thing to do. For what it's worth. Carlo doesn't think so. Carlo's a coward who'd sell out his own mother if it meant avoiding risk. Isabella took Elena's hands. Listen to me. You can do this. I've seen you train with Nina. I've seen you hold your ground at family dinners. You're stronger than you think. I'm terrified. Good. Terror keeps you sharp. Isabella squeezed her hands. But don't let Damien see it. He respects strength. Show him you're capable, and he'll start treating you like a partner instead of a liability. Is that what you want? For me to be his partner? I want you to survive, whatever form that takes. Isabella stood. Now get dressed and take this. She pressed something cold and metal into Elena's hand. Elena looked down and saw a small pistol, compact and deadly. I can't. You can. Nina taught you to shoot last week, didn't she? On a range, with targets, not people. People are just targets that move and scream. Isabella's smile was grim. Hopefully you won't need it, but if you do, don't hesitate. The first person to hesitate is the first person to die. After Isabella left, Elena changed into black jeans and a dark jacket. She strapped the gun to her ankle, where it felt like a burning brand against her skin. Then she sat on the bed and waited, counting the minutes until her life changed again. Damien knocked at exactly the 2-hour mark. He was dressed similarly, all black, with a jacket that probably concealed more weapons than Elena wanted to think about. Vincent was with him. "Ready?" Damien asked. "As I'll ever be. Eat." They went out through the back of the house where a nondescript sedan waited in the dark. Vincent drove. Elena sat in the back next to Damien, watching the city slide past the windows. "The Volkovs are holding your brother at a warehouse in Pilsen," Damien said, not looking at her. "Industrial district, minimal foot traffic at night. They're expecting us to either capitulate or attack with force. We're doing neither." "What are we doing?" "Walking in through the front door." He finally looked at her. "They want to negotiate, so we negotiate. But the moment we have visual confirmation that your brother is alive and present, we take him and leave." "Just like that?" "Just like that?" Damien's smile was cold. "The Volkovs are bullies. They're used to people being afraid of them. But they're also pragmatists. They won't start shooting if it means losing the dockyard deal entirely. And if they do start shooting, then we shoot back. Try to keep up." The warehouse was exactly as grim as Elena had imagined. Rusted metal siding, broken windows, the smell of old oil and decay. A single light illuminated the entrance where two men stood smoking cigarettes. Vincent parked a block away. "I'll wait here. Any trouble? You've got 5 minutes before I call for backup." "We won't need backup," Damien said. He looked at Elena. "Stay behind me. Don't speak unless I tell you to. And keep your hands visible." They walked towards the warehouse like they were going to dinner, casual, unhurried. The two men at the entrance straightened, hands moving toward concealed weapons. "Damien Morelli," one of them said in heavily accented English. "You're expected." "I should hope so." They were patted down. The man checking Damien found 2 guns, a knife, and something Elena didn't get a good look at. He raised his eyebrows. "You come to negotiate or start war?" "I come prepared for either." Damien gestured to Elena. "She's unarmed." That was a lie. But the man checking her didn't find the ankle holster, and Elena focused on breathing normally, on not giving anything away. Inside, the warehouse was cavernous and mostly empty. Shipping containers lined one wall. A single office area had been converted into something resembling a meeting room, with a table and chairs and more armed men than Elena could count quickly. 12, maybe. Maybe more. At the head of the table sat a man who could only be Viktor Volkov. 50s, silver hair, the kind of face that suggested he'd done terrible things and slept fine afterward. He smiled when he saw Damien. "Mr. Morelli, I'm honored you accepted my invitation." "I didn't have much choice." "No, I suppose you didn't." Victor's eyes slid to Elena. "And this must be the bride, the waitress who trapped you with a dance. I have to say, I didn't believe the story when I heard it." "Believe what you want," Damien said. "You have something that belongs to me. I want it back." "Belongs to you?" Victor laughed. "The boy is in state custody. He doesn't belong to anyone. He's family now. That makes him mine." "Family?" Victor leaned back. "Such a flexible concept. Tell me, Mr. Morelli, how much is family worth? The dockyard deal? 20 million a year? More?" "I'm not here to negotiate my business interests." "Then why are you here?" "To take the boy and leave." Damien's voice was flat. "You've made your point. You've demonstrated that you can gather intelligence, that you can find leverage. I'm impressed. Now let him go. And if I don't? Then I make you." Damien pulled out a phone, tapped something, and set it on the table. "That's a live feed from your daughter's apartment in Moscow. Nice place. She has good taste." Victor's smile disappeared. "You wouldn't dare." "I would. You threaten my family, I threaten yours. That's how this works." Damien leaned forward. "But I'd rather not. I'd rather we both walk away from this intact. You keep the dockyard. I keep the boy. We call it even. You're willing to sacrifice 20 million? I'm willing to sacrifice money. I'm not willing to sacrifice family." Damien glanced at Elena. "Not anymore." Something in Victor's expression shifted. "You actually care about her." "I care about my reputation. Letting you take what's mine would be bad for business." But Elena heard the lie in it. Or maybe not a lie. Maybe a truth that Damien himself didn't fully understand yet. Victor considered for a long moment. Then he gestured to one of his men. "Bring the boy." 2 minutes that felt like hours. Then a door opened and Michael walked out. Elena's breath caught. He was thinner than in the photograph, with a bruise on his jaw and wrists rubbed raw from restraints. But he was alive. He was here. Their eyes met. Michael's widened. "Elena?" "Hi, Mickey." Her voice cracked on the nickname. "Long time." "You two have a very touching reunion ahead of you," Victor said. "But first, Mr. Morelli, we need to finalize terms. The dockyard is mine. Any interference, and I release information about your shipping routes to federal authorities. Understood?" "Understood." "Good. Then take your family and go." It was too easy. Elena felt it in her gut, the same instinct that had kept her alive in bad neighborhoods and worse foster homes. Something was wrong. Damien felt it too. She saw his shoulders tense, saw his eyes flick to the exits. "Move," he said quietly to Elena. "Now." She grabbed Michael's arm and pulled him toward the door. Michael stumbled, still disoriented, but he followed. Damien backed after them, watching Victor and his men. They were 10 feet from the exit when Victor spoke again. "Oh, and Mr. Morelli? One more thing." Damien stopped. "I lied about the dockyard. I'm keeping it, and I'm still going to kill the boy. But I wanted to see you give it up first. Wanted to see the great Damien Morelli bend." The room exploded into motion. Elena saw the man to her left pull his gun and reacted without thinking. Her elbow came up and caught him in the throat. He went down choking. She grabbed Michael and threw herself behind a shipping container as gunfire erupted. Damien had already dropped 2 men and was moving like violence was choreographed, every motion economical, brutal, final. Elena saw him put a bullet through Victor's shoulder, saw the Russian go down screaming. "Stay down," she hissed at Michael. Then she pulled the gun from her ankle holster. A man came around the container, weapon raised. Elena shot him. The recoil jarred her arm, and the sound was deafening, but the man went down. She'd aimed for center mass like Nina had taught her, like Isabella had said. People are just targets that move and scream. Another man. Another shot. This one went wide, punched through metal. He fired back, and Elena felt the round pass close enough to her face that she could feel the air move. She adjusted and fired again. This time she didn't miss. Her hands were shaking. Her ears were ringing. Michael was saying something, but she couldn't hear it over the sound of her own heartbeat. Damien appeared next to her, blood on his jacket. "We need to move. Vincent called backup, but we can't wait." "Can you walk?" Elena asked Michael. He nodded, white-faced. They ran for the exit. More gunfire behind them. The night air hit Elena's face like cold water. Vincent was already pulling up, the sedan's back door open. "Get in," he shouted. Michael dove in first. Elena followed. Damien came last, turning to fire 3 more shots back at the warehouse before slamming the door. Vincent floored it. The tires screamed. Elena held Michael close and watched through the back window as the warehouse receded into darkness. "Is anyone hit?" Vincent asked. "No," Damien said. He was reloading his gun with hands that were perfectly steady. "Elena, you good?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. "She shot 2 of them," Damien said to Vincent. "Clean shots, didn't freeze." "I felt frozen," Elena whispered. "You weren't. That's what matters." Damien looked at Michael. "You must be the famous brother." Michael stared at him. "You're Damien Morelli." "Congratulations, you can identify people." Damien turned back to the window. "Your sister just killed 2 men to protect you. You're welcome." The drive back was silent except for the sound of Michael's ragged breathing and Elena's attempts to stop shaking. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the men going down, saw the blood, saw the way their bodies had crumpled. She'd killed people. 2 people. Maybe more if her wild shots had connected. "Don't think about it," Damien said quietly. "Not yet. Right now you just need to breathe." But Elena couldn't stop thinking about it, couldn't stop seeing it. They pulled into the estate just as dawn was breaking. Vincent parked and immediately started making calls, his voice low and urgent. Damien got out first, then held the door for Elena and Michael. "Inside," he said, "before the neighbors start asking questions. Mrs. Chen was waiting in the kitchen with coffee and a first aid kit. She took one look at them and clucked her tongue. "You're all alive. That's something." "Barely," Elena said. "Barely is good enough." Mrs. Chen pointed at Michael. "You, sit." Let me look at those wrists. Michael sat like he was in a daze. Elena sank into the chair next to him, suddenly exhausted in a way that went deeper than physical. Damien disappeared into his office with Vincent. Elena, Michael said. His voice was hoarse. What the hell just happened? I got married, she said, to a complicated man, and then I came to get you. You killed people. Yes. And you're married to the Mafia. Apparently. Michael laughed. It was a broken sound edging toward hysteria. I spent 7 years wondering if you'd forgotten about me, wondering if you'd ever come back, and you show up married to Damian Morelli and shooting Russians. I never forgot you. Elena grabbed his hand. I looked for you for years. I just couldn't find you. I know. I hoped. Michael's eyes filled. I'm sorry. For getting arrested. For being a problem. You're not a problem. You're my brother. They sat there holding hands until Mrs. Chen finished bandaging Michael's wrists and ordered them both to bed. Michael got the guest room down the hall from Elena's. She showed him where everything was, made sure he had towels and clean clothes, then retreated to her own room. She made it to the bathroom before she threw up. Her hands still smelled like gunpowder. Her clothes were spattered with blood that wasn't hers. She stripped everything off and stood under the shower until the water ran cold, scrubbing her skin until it was raw. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel with her hair dripping, Damien was sitting on her bed. You should knock, she said. You should lock your door. He looked at her. How are you holding up? I've been better. You'll have nightmares probably for a while. That's normal. Damien stood. I brought something that might help. He held out a bottle. Whiskey, expensive looking. I don't drink, Elena said. Tonight you do. He poured 2 glasses, handed her one. Trust me, it helps. Elena drank. The alcohol burned going down, but he was right. It did help. A little. You did well tonight, Damien said, but better than I expected. I killed people. You protected your family. There's a difference. He refilled her glass. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you made the right choices. You didn't freeze, you didn't panic, you saved your brother's life and probably mine too. I didn't do anything special. You did exactly what needed to be done. That's special enough. Damien sat next to her on the bed. Victor will retaliate eventually. Not right away, he's got bigger problems now, but eventually, which means you and Michael need to be ready. Michael's not staying here. Yes, he is. He's got nowhere else to go. Juvenile facility won't take him back, not after this. And if we put him on the street, Victor's people will find him in a week. Damien looked at her. He stays. We protect him. But in return, he follows the rules. My rules. Understood? Elena nodded. She was too tired to argue. Good. Now get some sleep. Damien stood to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, I meant what I said to Victor, about family, about not sacrificing what's mine. I'm not yours. Aren't you? He smiled, and it was almost kind. You're my wife. You wear my ring. You live in my house. And tonight you killed for my family. If that doesn't make you mine, I don't know what does. He left before she could respond. Elena finished the whiskey, crawled into bed, and slept for 12 hours straight. She dreamed of gunfire and blood and Michael's face when he'd recognized her. When she woke, the sun was setting and someone was knocking on her door. Come in, she called. Isabella entered with a tray. Food, coffee, more whiskey. I heard it was eventful. That's one word for it. Damien says you were magnificent. His actual word. I almost fell over. Isabella set the tray on the bed. Eat something. You look like hell. Elena picked at the food while Isabella filled her in on the aftermath. Victor was recovering in a Russian hospital. His daughter had been moved to a secure location. The dockyard deal was dead, but Damien had already lined up 3 alternative revenue streams. Carlo was furious but contained. And Michael? Elena asked. Settling in, Damien set him up in the guest house out back, figured he needed space. Isabella smiled. Your husband is a lot of things, but he's not stupid. He knows keeping your brother close keeps you loyal. I would have been loyal anyway. Would you? Isabella studied her. You've been here 3 months. You've gone from terrified waitress to someone who shoots her way out of ambushes. That's not loyalty. That's survival. What's the difference? Loyalty is a choice. Survival is instinct. Isabella touched her hand. Just make sure you know which one you're feeling. Over the next 2 weeks, life found a new rhythm. Elena trained with Nina in the mornings, now with live ammunition and combat scenarios instead of just bags and pads. Afternoons she spent with Michael, trying to rebuild a relationship that had been frozen for 7 years. Evenings she had dinner with Damien, and the silence between them was different now. Less hostile, more companionable, almost like they were actually married. "Tell me about the dockyard," Elena said one night. Damien looked up from his phone. "Why?" "Because I gave it up for you. For Michael. I want to know what I cost you." He was quiet for a moment. $23 million annually, plus strategic control of shipping routes that would have given us leverage over 3 other families. It was a good deal. "And you let it go." "I did." "Why?" "Because the alternative was watching you grieve your brother and resent me for not acting." Damien set his phone down. "That would have been expensive in different ways." "So it was practical." "Everything I do is practical." But his eyes said something else. Elena wanted to push, to ask what he really meant, but Michael appeared in the doorway looking nervous. "Sorry to interrupt. Elena, can we talk?" They went to the library. Michael paced while Elena sat, watching him try to find words. "I need to tell you something," he said finally, "about why I was arrested, about what I did." Elena's stomach tightened. "Okay. The armed robbery wasn't random. I knew the guy we were hitting, Marco Santos. He's a small-time dealer on the south side." Michael stopped pacing. "He's also the guy who killed Mom." The room tilted. "What?" "I found out 2 years ago. Tracked him down. He was high when he hit her car. Never even got arrested because his family paid off witnesses." Michael's voice shook. "So I decided to rob him. Thought I could scare him, hurt him, I don't know. But it went wrong. His guys were there. Someone called the cops. I got picked up 3 blocks away." Elena couldn't breathe. "You've known for 2 years who killed her?" "Yeah." "And you didn't tell me, didn't try to find me." "I didn't know how. You disappeared after you aged out. I had no number, no address, nothing." Michael's eyes filled. "I thought you'd forgotten about me. Thought maybe you'd gotten out and didn't want to look back." "I never forgot you," Elena said. "Never. I was just scared and stupid and poor. I should have tried harder. You came for me now. That's what matters." Michael sat next to her. "I'm sorry. For all of it. For being a screw-up. For getting caught. For bringing the Volkovs down on you. You're not a screw-up. You're just—" Elena stopped. "Actually, you are kind of a screw-up. But you're my screw-up." Michael laughed, teary. "What happens now?" "Now you stay here. You follow Damien's rules. You don't do anything stupid." Elena grabbed his shoulders. "And you let me handle Marco Santos." "Elena, I mean it. You stay out of it. Let me deal with it." She found Damien in his office an hour later. He was on the phone but ended the call when she walked in. "We need to talk," she said. "I gathered." He gestured to a chair. "What's wrong?" Elena told him about Marco Santos, about her mother's death, about Michael's attempted revenge. Damien listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. "And you want me to do what?" he asked when she finished. "I want information. Where he is, what he does. Who protects him." Elena met his eyes. "And then I want you to let me handle it." "Handle it how?" "However I need to." Damien was quiet for a long moment. "You're asking me to help you kill someone." "I'm asking you to help me get justice." "There's no difference. Not in this world." He leaned back. "But all right. I'll get you the information. What you do with it is your choice. Just don't get caught." "I won't." "And Elena?" He waited until she looked at him. "After this, there's no going back. You cross this line, you're not the scared waitress anymore. You're something else entirely. Make sure that's what you want." Elena thought about her mother, about Michael alone and angry and desperate for 7 years, about the men she'd already killed to protect her family. "It's what I want," she said. 3 days later, Damien handed her a folder. Marco Santos worked at a body shop in Englewood, lived alone in an apartment above it. No security, no protection, no one who would care if he disappeared. When? Damien asked. Tonight. I'm coming with you. No, this is mine. It's yours, he agreed. But I'm still coming. Call it insurance. They left after midnight. Vincent drove again, parking 2 blocks from the body shop. Elena had the gun Isabella had given her, plus a knife Damien had provided. She felt calm in a way that should have scared her, but didn't. The apartment was easy to access. Fire escape, unlocked window, no alarm. Marco Santos was passed out on his couch, empty bottles on the floor, the smell of stale beer and old smoke. Elena stood over him and felt nothing. No rage, no fear, just cold certainty. She put the gun to his head and he woke up. What? Who? My name is Elena Cross, she said quietly. You killed my mother 7 years ago. Her name was Anna. You were high. You ran a red light. You paid off witnesses and walked away. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Then fear. Please, he slurred. I'm sorry. I didn't mean... It was an accident. I know, but accidents have consequences. Elena's hand was steady. This is mine. Damien was waiting by the window. He watched her pull the trigger, watched her wipe the gun clean, watched her walk out of that apartment like she'd just finished a normal errand. They didn't speak on the drive back. When they reached the estate, Elena went straight to her room and sat on the bed, staring at her hands. She'd killed someone in cold blood. Executed him. There was no self-defense this time, no heat of the moment, just deliberate, calculated murder. And she felt fine. Better than fine. She felt free. The knock came an hour later. Damien, again. How are you? He asked. I'm okay. No regrets? No. Elena looked at him. Does that make me a monster? It makes you a Morelli. He sat next to her. You protected your family. Avenged your mother. That's not monstrous. That's justice. That's what you tell yourself when you do terrible things? That's what I know. Damien turned to face her fully. You've been asking for weeks what I expect from you, what this family expects. This is it. Strength, loyalty, the willingness to do what needs to be done. You have all 3 now. So I'm not a liability anymore? No, you're an asset. He smiled. Maybe even a partner, if you want to be. Elena thought about the girl who'd spilled wine 3 months ago, who danced because she was desperate and terrified, who'd thought marriage to a monster would be better than going back to nothing. That girl was gone. Had been dying slowly since the wedding night, and tonight she'd finally expired completely. In her place was someone harder, someone capable, someone who could stand next to Damien Morelli and not look weak. I want to be, Elena said. Damien leaned in and kissed her. Not like the perfunctory kiss at their wedding, but something real, something that felt like a beginning. When he pulled back, his eyes were different, warmer. Then let's make this interesting, he said. The kiss changed everything and nothing at the same time. Damien left her room that night without another word, and the next morning they had breakfast like it had never happened. But something had shifted in the air between them. Some invisible line crossed that neither of them could uncross. Elena caught him watching her sometimes. Not with the cold assessment he'd used before, but with something that looked almost like curiosity, like he was trying to figure out who she'd become and whether he liked the answer. She was trying to figure out the same thing. You're different, Michael said one afternoon. They were in the gym where Elena had been teaching him some of what Nina had drilled into her. I don't mean just stronger. You're different. People change. Not like this. Michael blocked her punch, barely. You're scarier now. Like you could hurt someone and not feel bad about it. He wasn't wrong. Elena hadn't felt bad about Marco Santos. Hadn't felt much of anything except relief that it was done. She wondered if that made her broken, or if broken was just what survival looked like in this world. Do you feel bad, she asked, about trying to rob him? Michael thought about it. No, I feel bad I got caught. That's different. Yeah, it is. They trained in silence for a while. Michael was getting better, faster, less likely to telegraph his moves. He'd never be as good as Elena, didn't have the same desperate need to prove himself, but he was competent enough to not be an easy target. Damien wants to see you, Vincent said from the doorway. Both of you, in his office. Elena's stomach tightened. Damien didn't summon people to his office for good news. She exchanged a look with Michael, saw her own worry reflected back. They found Damien behind his desk with Isabella and Carlo. The atmosphere was tense enough to cut. Sit, Damien said. They sat. Elena kept her hands in her lap so no one would see them shake. Old habits died hard. We have a problem, Damien continued. Viktor Volkov is out of the hospital, and he's calling for a meeting. A meeting or an ambush? Elena asked. Both, probably. Carlo glared at her. This is your fault. If you'd stayed in your place, none of this would have happened. If I'd stayed in my place, Michael would be dead. And that would have been his problem, not ours. Carlo, Isabella said sharply. Enough. No, it's not enough. This girl has brought nothing but trouble since the day she walked in here. Carlo turned to Damien. You need to shut this down. Send her away. Tell Victor we'll give him something else in exchange for peace. There's nothing else he wants, Damien said. He wants blood, mine or Elena's, maybe both. Then give him Elena. The room went cold. Elena felt Michael tense beside her, felt her own muscles coil ready to fight or run. But Damien just smiled, and it was the most dangerous expression Elena had ever seen on his face. Say that again, he told Carlo quietly. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You're suggesting I hand over my wife to a man who wants to torture her to death. I'm suggesting you make the practical choice. The practical choice is not betraying my family. Damien stood. Elena is family. Michael is family. Anyone who touches them answers to me. Is that clear? Carlo's jaw worked. You're making a mistake. It's my mistake to make. Now get out. After Carlo left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame, Isabella let out a breath. That went well. He'll come around, Damien said. He didn't sound convinced. Or he'll make a move against Elena himself, Isabella said. You need to watch him. I'm always watching him. Damien turned to Elena. The meeting with Victor is tomorrow night. Neutral ground, both families, formal negotiations. Let me guess, Elena said. I'm not invited. You're invited. Required, actually. Victor wants to see you, wants to look you in the eye while he decides whether to kill you or use you as leverage. Wonderful. It gets better. The meeting is at the Lexington Grand, black tie, 200 witnesses. Damien's expression was unreadable. It's a gala, charity fundraiser for some hospital. Half the city's elite will be there. Victor thinks a public setting will keep things civilized. Will it? Probably not. Damien looked at Michael. You're staying here. Vincent will keep you secure. Don't leave the grounds. Don't answer the door. Don't do anything stupid. I want to come, Michael said. If Elena's in danger, you'll be in the way. This isn't a fight you're ready for. Damien's voice softened slightly. I know you want to protect your sister, but the best way to do that right now is to stay safe so she doesn't have to worry about you. Michael looked at Elena. She nodded. Fine, he said. But if anything happens to her, you won't need to do anything. I'll already have burned the city down. Damien said it like he was discussing the weather. After Michael left, Elena stayed behind. Isabella had already disappeared, leaving her alone with Damien. How bad is this going to be? She asked. Bad. Victor's not interested in peace. He's interested in revenge. The public setting is just theater. Damien came around the desk. But he's also a pragmatist. If we can offer him something that satisfies his pride without actually giving him what he wants, there's a chance we walk out of there intact. What could we possibly offer him? I'm working on it. He touched her face, a gesture that still surprised her every time. You need to be ready for anything tomorrow night. Wear something that lets you move. Keep a weapon on you and stay close to me. Always so romantic, Elena said. Romance is for people who don't have enemies trying to kill them. But he smiled when he said it. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be long. The next day passed in a blur of preparation. Isabella showed up with a dress that somehow managed to be both elegant and practical. Black silk with a slit high enough to hide a thigh holster, structured enough to conceal body armor underneath. Elena stared at it. You're joking. I never joke about survival fashion. Isabella laid out the armor. This is lightweight Kevlar. Won't stop a rifle round, but it'll handle most handguns. The dress is designed to accommodate it. How do you even know about this stuff? Because I'm a Morelli woman. We learn early how to look beautiful while preparing for war. Isabella helped her into the armor, adjusting straps. There, how does it feel? Like she was going to battle dressed for a magazine cover. Insane. Perfect. That's the aesthetic we're going for. Isabella stepped back, studying her. You look good. Dangerous. Damien's going to lose his mind when he sees you. That's not the goal. It should be. A man who loses his mind over you is a man who'll kill for you. Isabella smiled. Trust me on this. When Elena came downstairs that evening, Damien was waiting in the entrance hall. He wore a tuxedo like it was armor, all sharp lines and contained violence. His eyes tracked her descent, and something flickered in his expression that Elena couldn't quite read. You look... He stopped. Ready. That's one word for it. Vincent was driving again, with 2 additional cars following at a distance. Elena watched the city slide past, all lights and movement. People going about their normal lives with no idea that a few miles away, 2 crime families were about to have a very civilized conversation about murder. The Lexington Grand was all marble and crystal, the kind of place where senators and CEOs came to be seen. A red carpet stretched from the curb to the entrance, photographers flanking both sides. Elena's stomach turned over. We're really doing this in public? Victor wants a show. We'll give him one. Damien took her hand as they stepped out of the car. Smile. Look like you're happy to be here. Elena smiled. It felt like showing teeth. The cameras flashed. Someone shouted Damien's name, asking about the dockyard deal, about the Volkov situation, about his mysterious bride. He ignored them all, steering Elena through the crowd with a hand at the small of her back. Inside was even more overwhelming. A ballroom that could fit a small town. Chandeliers throwing rainbow light across marble floors, tables dressed in white and gold. At least 300 people, all dressed in their expensive best, drinking champagne and pretending they weren't worried about the 2 most powerful crime families in Chicago being in the same room. There, Damien murmured, nodding toward the far end of the ballroom. Victor Volkov stood near the bar, surrounded by his people. He looked older than Elena remembered from the warehouse, his shoulders still bandaged under his tuxedo. When he saw them, he smiled and raised his glass. Here we go, Damien said. Remember, stay close. Don't drink anything. Don't eat anything. And if shooting starts, get behind me. They crossed the ballroom like they were walking into enemy territory, which they were. People noticed, conversations dying as they passed. By the time they reached Victor, they had an audience. Damien, Victor said warmly, like they were old friends. And the lovely Elena, I'm so glad you could make it. We were invited, Damien said. It would have been rude to decline. Indeed, especially when there's so much to discuss. Victor's eyes fixed on Elena. You're braver than I expected, or more foolish. I haven't decided which. Maybe both, Elena said. Maybe. Victor sipped his champagne. I've been thinking about our situation, about the dockyard, about your brother, about how this all got so complicated. And what did you conclude? That I want compensation. Something significant enough to make me forget that you shot me and embarrassed me in front of my men. Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. I was thinking perhaps your wife. A few months with us, just to teach her some manners. Then I'll return her, mostly intact. Elena felt Damien's hand tighten on her back. That's not happening, Damien said. Then what are you offering? Because I'm not leaving this room empty-handed. I'm offering you a choice. Take what I'm willing to give, or take nothing and start a war you can't win. Damien's voice was flat. I'll give you the South Shore territory. It's worth $8 million annually, plus strategic access to the ports you've been wanting. Victor raised his eyebrows. South Shore, that's Giordano territory. Not anymore. They've been cutting into my profits. I've been planning to remove them anyway. You can have it. Consider it a gift. In exchange for leaving your wife alone. In exchange for peace. Victor considered. The entire ballroom seemed to be holding its breath. It's a generous offer, Victor said finally, but I'm not sure it's enough. Your wife killed 2 of my men, embarrassed me, made me look weak. That has a cost. Then name your price, in money or territory, but Elena is off the table. Why? Victor leaned forward. Why is she so important? You barely know her. She's just a waitress you married on a whim. She's my wife. That makes her important. Is it love, then? The great Damien Morelli, brought down by a pretty face? Victor laughed. How disappointing. Call it what you want. My offer stands. South Shore, plus $5 million in cash. Final offer. The silence stretched. Elena counted her heartbeats, counted the exits, counted the number of Victor's men she could see. 8, maybe 9. All armed, definitely. I accept, Victor said finally, but on one condition. Which is? A dance. Your wife owes me a dance, the same waltz she performed for you the night you met. If she can do it here, in front of everyone, perfect and complete, we have a deal. Victor smiled. If she fails, I get her for a week, and you get nothing. Elena's breath caught. The room spun. No, Damien said. Yes, Elena said at the same time. Damien turned to her. You don't have to do this. He's not going to accept anything else. You know that. Elena looked at Victor. One dance, perfect. Then you take South Shore and leave my family alone. Forever, Victor agreed. You have my word. Your word isn't worth much. Then you'd better dance well. Victor gestured to the orchestra. They know the Blue Danube. I took the liberty of requesting it. Of course he had. Elena's hands were cold but steady as she walked to the center of the ballroom. People moved back, forming a circle. The room was silent except for the rustle of expensive fabric and her own heartbeat. She thought about the last time she'd done this. In the velvet room, terrified and desperate, dancing for her life. She'd been invisible then, had spent her whole life being invisible, and that dance had been her way of finally being seen. But she wasn't invisible anymore. Wasn't that scared waitress? She'd killed to protect her family, had walked into danger and come out harder for it, had become someone even she didn't fully recognize. The music started. Elena closed her eyes and let her body remember. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, arms up, back straight, the familiar rhythm settling into her bones. But this time was different. This time she wasn't dancing to escape. She was dancing to prove something, that she belonged here, that she'd earned her place, that she was strong enough to stand next to Damien Morelli and not be crushed by the weight of his world. She moved through the waltz with precision and grace, every step exact, every turn controlled. The room disappeared. The people, the danger, the stakes. All of it faded until there was just the music and the movement and the certainty that she would not fail. Not again. Never again. The music swelled. Elena spun, her dress flaring, the slit revealing the weapon strapped to her thigh. She saw people's eyes widen, saw them realize that the bride they'd dismissed as decoration was armed and dangerous. Good. Let them see. Let them understand. The final notes played. Elena came to a stop in the exact center of the circle, arms extended, chest heaving. Perfect. The applause was tentative at first, then genuine. Victor clapped too, slow and measured. Well done, he said. You're full of surprises, Mrs. Morelli. I'm learning to be. Elena walked back to Damien. We have a deal? We have a deal. Victor raised his glass. To peace, however temporary. Elena wanted to sit down, wanted to shake and cry and process what had just happened. But she stood next to Damien and smiled like she did this every day. We should leave, Damien murmured, before he changes his mind. They were halfway to the exit when the first gunshot rang out. Everything happened too fast and in excruciating slow motion simultaneously. Elena saw the muzzle flash from the balcony, saw Damien's head snap around, saw his body twist as he pushed her down. The second shot hit where her chest had been a moment before. Stay down, Damien shouted. His gun was already out. But Elena's gun was out too, and she was scanning for targets. The balcony. 3 shooters. No, 4. Not Victor's people. Someone else. More shots. People screaming. The chaos of 300 terrified socialites trying to reach the exits at once. Elena saw one of the shooters draw a bead on Damien and didn't think, just aimed and fired. The man went down. She tracked to the next target, fired again. Her third shot went wide, punching into marble. Elena, move! Damien grabbed her arm and pulled her behind a pillar as return fire tore up the floor where she'd been standing. "Who are they?" Elena asked. "No idea. Not Victor's men. Someone else." Damien fired twice more. "We need to get out of here before the police arrive." "Can't go through the main entrance. Too exposed." Elena's mind was racing, that same clarity from the warehouse cutting through the panic. "Service entrance, through the kitchen." "You know where that is?" "I worked in places like this. They're all the same." Elena grabbed his hand. "Come on." They ran, keeping low, using the chaos as cover. Elena led them through a service hallway, past cowering waitstaff and into a kitchen that smelled like grilled meat and fear. The service entrance was at the back, leading to an alley. Vincent was already there with the car. "Get in!" Elena dove into the back seat, Damien right behind her. The car was moving before the door closed. "Everyone okay?" Vincent asked. "We're hit," Damien said. "Elena?" She looked down and saw blood on her dress. For a panicked second, she thought she'd been shot, but then she realized it was Damien's blood. The second shot had hit him after all, grazed his side, left a streak of red across his white shirt. "I'm fine, you're not." Elena pressed her hand against the wound. "Vincent, hospital." "No hospital," Damien said. "They'll ask questions. Take us home. Mrs. Chen knows what to do." The drive back was a blur. Elena kept pressure on Damien's side while he made phone calls in rapid Italian, his voice tight with pain but still controlled. She caught words like tradimento and scopriere and understood enough to know he was talking about betrayal, about finding who'd tried to kill them. Because that's what it had been, not random violence, not Victor's revenge, a deliberate assassination attempt aimed at both of them. "It was Carlo," Elena said suddenly. Damien looked at her. "What?" "The shooters. Carlo set it up. He said yesterday I should be given to Victor. When you refused, he must have decided to handle it another way. Carlo's a coward. He doesn't have the stones to order a hit on me." "Maybe not on you, but on me? Absolutely. And if I'm collateral damage while taking me out, even better from his perspective." Elena pressed harder against the wound, felt Damien wince. "I'm right, and you know it." Damien was quiet for a long moment. "We'll deal with it when we get home." Mrs. Chen met them at the door with Michael right behind her. Michael went white when he saw the blood. "Is she—" "It's not mine," Elena said. "Help me get him to the kitchen." They laid Damien on the table like he was a piece of furniture. Mrs. Chen shooed everyone else away and got to work with supplies that suggested she'd done this before, many times. "Shallow grays?" she announced after a tense minute. "Messy but not dangerous. You're lucky." "I feel lucky," Damien said dryly. "Stop moving or I'll make it deeper." Mrs. S. Chen started stitching with the kind of competence that came from practice. "Who shot you this time?" "We're still determining that." "We'll determine it somewhere else. I have a kitchen to sterilize." After Mrs. Chen finished, Elena helped Damien to his office. Isabella was already there, along with Vincent and 3 men Elena recognized as Damien's inner circle. No Carlo. No Salvatore. "Report," Damien said, lowering himself into his chair with a grunt. 4 shooters on this balcony," Vincent said. "All dead. 2 from Elena's shots, 2 from security. They were carrying no identification, no phones, nothing to trace. Professional job." "Who hired them?" "Working on it. But the word on the street is that someone in the family wanted you taken out, both of you." "Carlo," Isabella said. She looked furious. "It has to be him. He's been pushing for this since Elena arrived." "Where is he?" Damien's voice was cold. "At his estate. Salvatore's with him." Vincent hesitated. "They're fortifying. They know you're coming." "Good." Damien stood, wavered slightly. Elena moved to steady him, but he waved her off. "Get everyone together. We're going to have a conversation with my uncle." "You're injured," Elena said. "You should rest." "I'll rest when Carlo's dead." "Then I'm coming with you." Elena says, "Don't. I was the target too. I have a right to be there." She met his eyes. "And you need someone watching your back who you can actually trust." Damien studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Fine. But you stay behind me. And if I tell you to run, you run. Not a chance." "I'm serious." "So am I." Elena touched his face. We're in this together, for better or worse. Isn't that what the vows said? I don't remember that part. Must have been the Italian version. She smiled. Let's go kill your uncle. Carlo's estate was smaller than Damien's but heavily fortified. Guards at the gate, cameras everywhere, lights flooding the grounds. They knew Damien was coming, had prepared for a siege. They weren't prepared for what actually happened. Damien didn't attack, didn't storm the gates or start shooting. Instead, he called Carlo's cell phone and waited while it rang 6 times before his uncle answered. Damien, I heard about the gala. Terrible tragedy. Cut the performance. I know you ordered the hit. I did no such thing. You're paranoid. Then come outside. Let's discuss it face to face. I don't think so. You're clearly unstable. Probably still bleeding. Carlo's voice was smug. Maybe you should go home. Tend your wounds. We'll talk when you're thinking clearly. I am thinking clearly, and what I'm thinking is that you tried to kill me and my wife. That's treason, Carlo, against family, against everything we stand for. I did what was necessary. That girl has been a problem since day one. I was solving it. By killing me in the process? Collateral damage. The family would have survived. Would have been stronger for it, honestly. You've gone soft, Damien, weak, choosing a nobody waitress over family interests. Carlo's contempt was clear even through the phone. I was doing you a favor. Damien's expression didn't change. Come outside, Carlo. Let's settle this properly. So you can shoot me? I don't think so. I'm staying right here, behind my walls, with my men, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're wrong about that. Damien gestured to Vincent. Vincent made a call. 30 seconds later, the lights in Carlo's estate died. Then the gate swung open, unlocked from the inside. What? Carlo's voice rose. What did you do? I bought your men, Damien said calmly. All of them, 2 weeks ago, right after you started making noise about Elena. I knew you were planning something, so I made sure your people were more loyal to my money than to your orders. Silence on the other end. Come outside, uncle, or we come in. Your choice. 5 minutes later, Carlo emerged with his hands visible. Salvatore followed, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. You can't do this, Carlo said. I'm family. I'm blood. You stopped being family when you tried to kill me. Damien's gun was steady. Elena, you want this shot? Elena pulled her own weapon. She'd imagined this moment, thought she'd feel angry or scared or vindicated. But looking at Carlo, at this old man who'd seen her as disposable, who tried to erase her like she was nothing, she just felt tired. He's not worth it, she said. Not worth the bullet or the guilt or the nightmares. Just exile him. Let him leave Chicago and never come back. Elena, I'm serious. Killing him makes him a martyr. Makes his death mean something. Letting him live broke and powerless and watching from a distance while we thrive, that's better revenge. Damien looked at her, then at Carlo, then back at her. All right, he said. Carlo Morelli, you're exiled from Chicago and stripped of all family privileges. You take nothing but what you're wearing. If I ever see you again, I'll kill you myself. Clear? Carlo's face went red. You're making a mistake. The family won't accept this. Won't accept her. The family will accept what I tell them to accept. Damien lowered his gun. Get out of my sight. Carlo left with Salvatore trailing behind him, both men diminished and defeated. Elena watched them go and felt something settle in her chest. Not satisfaction exactly, just closure. That was merciful, Vincent said. It was smart, Damien corrected. Dead, he's a problem. Alive and exiled, he's a cautionary tale. He turned to Elena. You're learning. I have a good teacher. They went home as dawn was breaking, exhausted and blood-stained but alive. Michael was still awake, pacing the entrance hall. Thank God, he breathed when he saw them. I thought, we're fine, Elena said. It's over. Is it? Michael looked between them. Really over? For now. Damien headed for the stairs, moving carefully. But in this life, it's never really over. Just brief periods of peace between crises. Cheerful, Elena muttered. Honest. He paused at the landing. Get some sleep, both of you. Tomorrow we start cleaning up the mess. But Elena couldn't sleep. She showered until the water ran clear, changed into clean clothes, and found herself back in the library. The sun was fully up now, light streaming through the windows, making everything look almost normal. "Can't sleep either?" Isabella asked from the doorway. "Too much adrenaline." "Yeah, that'll do it." Isabella came in and poured them both whiskey from the crystal decanter. "You did well tonight, both at the gala and with Carlo. Damien's impressed. He told me so." "He actually said that?" "In his way, which means he grunted approvingly." Isabella smiled. "But seriously, you're different. When you first came here, you looked like you were about to shatter. Now you look like you could shatter other people." "I don't know if that's a compliment." "It is. In this world, being feared is better than being loved." Isabella touched her glass to Elena's. "Though between you and me, I think Damien's starting to do both." "Love me? That's insane." "Is it? He gave up South Shore for you, exiled his own uncle rather than let you be hurt. That's not strategy, that's something else." Elena thought about the kiss, about the way Damien had pushed her down when the shooting started, had taken a bullet that might have been meant for her, about the way he looked at her sometimes, like she was a mystery he was trying to solve. "Even if he does," Elena said slowly, "what does that change? We're still in this world, still surrounded by people who want to kill us." "It changes everything, because love makes you vulnerable, makes you care. And caring is the most dangerous thing you can do in a family like ours." Isabella stood. "But it also makes you stronger, gives you something worth protecting, worth fighting for." She left Elena alone with that thought. The next 3 weeks passed in relative quiet, which made Elena nervous. Victor kept his word and took South Shore without incident. The Giordano family fell apart as predicted, their territory carved up among the remaining families. Carlo disappeared to somewhere in Europe, broke and bitter. And the city seemed to exhale, like it had been holding its breath, waiting for more violence that never came. Elena spent her days training with Nina, her evenings with Michael, her nights with Damien. They'd moved into the same room now, that invisible boundary finally crossed. It was strange and overwhelming and oddly comfortable all at once. "What are you thinking?" Damien asked one night. They were lying in bed, exhausted from the day, and Elena had been staring at the ceiling for the past 20 minutes. "That I don't recognize my own life anymore," she admitted. "6 months ago, I was a waitress counting quarters. Now I'm married to you, living in a mansion, training like a soldier. It's surreal." "Do you regret it?" Elena thought about that. About the wine spill, the dance, the bargain that had changed everything, about the fear and the violence and the gradual realization that she was stronger than she'd ever imagined. "No," she said, "I don't regret it. But I don't fully understand it either." "What's to understand? You took a risk. It paid off." "Did it?" "I'm in constant danger. Your family hates me. I've killed people." She turned to face him. "That's not exactly a fairy tale ending." "No, but it's real." Damien touched her face. "You're not that scared waitress anymore, Elena. You're someone who can stand in the fire and not burn. That's worth something." "Is it enough?" "I don't know. You tell me." Elena kissed him instead of answering because she didn't have words for what she was feeling. Didn't know how to explain that she was terrified and exhilarated and lost and found all at the same time. Later, after Damien had fallen asleep, she slipped out of bed and went to the window. The estate grounds were quiet, peaceful in the moonlight. From here she could almost forget the violence, the danger, the constant threat. Almost. A knock on the door made her turn. Michael stood there, looking uncertain. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Bad dreams." He came to stand next to her at the window. "I keep seeing that warehouse, the Russians, the guns. It's like it's happening over and over." "I get those too," Elena admitted. "They fade eventually, supposedly. Does it get easier? The killing?" "I don't know. I've only been doing this a few months longer than you." She put her arm around him. "But I hope not. I hope it stays hard, because the day it gets easy is the day we stop being human." They stood together in silence, watching the night. Two orphans who'd found each other again, who'd survived things that should have broken them, who were still trying to figure out who they were supposed to be in this new dangerous world they'd entered. "Thank you," Michael said finally, "for coming for me, for not giving up." "Always," Elena said, No matter what happens, we're family. Family, Michael echoed. Then he smiled. Even the crime boss husband? Especially the crime boss husband. He's kind of growing on me. Like a fungus? Exactly like a fungus. Elena laughed. Now go get some sleep. Morning training with Nina is going to be brutal. It's always brutal. Yeah, but we survive it. That's the point. After Michael left, Elena returned to bed. Damien hadn't moved, still sleeping peacefully despite everything. She watched him for a moment. This man who'd started as a threat and become something else entirely, something she was almost ready to call love. The future was uncertain. Victor could change his mind. Another enemy could emerge. The police could finally piece together enough evidence to bring them all down. There were 1,000 ways this could end badly, but right now, in this moment, they were alive. They were together. They were stronger than they'd been yesterday. And maybe that was enough. Elena closed her eyes and let herself believe it, just for tonight. Let herself imagine that the scared waitress who danced for her life had found something worth living for, something worth fighting for, even if that something came with guns and danger and the constant shadow of violence. Even then, she fell asleep with Damien's arm around her waist and dreamed of waltzes and wine, and the moment everything had changed. And for the first time in months, she didn't wake up screaming. The call came at 3 a.m, 3 months after Carlo's exile. Elena woke to find Damien already sitting up, phone pressed to his ear, his expression carved from stone. When? He asked. A pause. How many? Another pause. I'm on my way. He hung up and started dressing in the dark. Elena turned on the lamp. What happened? Victor's dead. Someone put 2 bullets in his head at a restaurant in Little Russia. The Volkov family is accusing us of breaking the peace. Damien pulled on his shirt. This is about to get ugly. We didn't kill him. Doesn't matter. They think we did, which means they're going to retaliate. I need to handle this before it becomes a war. He paused. Stay here. Keep Michael close. Don't answer the door for anyone. Damien? I mean it, Elena. This is different from before. The Volkovs are legitimately grieving, legitimately angry. If they see you, they'll kill you on sight. He kissed her forehead. I'll be back soon. But he wasn't back soon. Hours passed. Dawn came and went. Elena tried calling his phone and got voicemail. Tried Vincent and got the same. By noon, she was pacing the library like a caged animal, Michael watching her nervously. He's fine, Michael said. He's always fine. You don't know that. Neither do you. So stop assuming the worst. Elena wanted to snap at him, but he was right. She was spiraling, imagining every terrible possibility. Damien dead in an alley. Damien captured and tortured. Damien bleeding out somewhere while she sat safe behind these walls. The house phone rang. Elena lunged for it. Hello? Mrs. Morelli? The voice was unfamiliar, male, with a Russian accent. We have your husband. Elena's blood went cold. Who is this? My name doesn't matter. What matters is that Damien Morelli is currently sitting in front of me with a gun to his head, and you're going to come get him. This is about Victor. We didn't kill him. Someone did. Someone from your family. Maybe not you, maybe not Damien, but someone. The voice was calm, almost reasonable. But that's not why we took him. We took him because we want to make a trade. What kind of trade? The simple kind. You for him. You come alone, unarmed, to the address I'm about to give you. You walk in, he walks out. Everyone lives. And if I don't? Then we kill him slowly and send you the video. Your choice, Mrs. Morelli. But decide quickly. My patience is limited. He gave her an address in Pilsen, the same industrial district where Michael had been held. Then he hung up. Elena stood with the dead phone in her hand, mind racing. It was a trap. Obviously a trap. They'd kill her the moment she arrived, probably kill Damien too. Going was suicide, but not going was watching Damien die. What did they say? Michael asked. Elena told him. His face went white. You can't go. It's a trap. I know. Then call Vincent. Call Isabella. Call someone who can actually help. There's no time. And if they see anyone else coming, they'll kill him. Elena was already moving, grabbing her jacket, checking the gun she kept in the desk drawer. I have to go. Elena, no, you can't trade yourself for him. That's insane. He'd do it for me. He has done it for me. She grabbed Michael's shoulders. If I don't come back, call Isabella. Tell her everything. She'll know what to do. I'm coming with you. No, you're staying here where it's safe. Elena hugged him hard. I love you, Mickey. Whatever happens, remember that. She left before he could argue further, taking one of the cars from the garage and driving toward Pilsen like she was racing the sun. The address led to another warehouse, because of course it did. These people had no imagination. But this time, Elena wasn't walking in blind and terrified. This time, she knew what she was doing. She parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot, gun tucked into the back of her jeans, a knife strapped to her ankle. The warehouse looked abandoned, windows broken, rust eating through the metal walls, but there were fresh tire tracks in the dirt outside. The door was unlocked. Elena pushed it open and stepped into darkness that smelled like oil and old blood. Mrs. Morelli, a voice called from deeper inside. You came. I'm impressed. She followed the voice to a makeshift office area where a man sat behind a metal desk. 30-ish, blonde, with Victor's eyes and sharper features. His son, Elena realized, Alexei Volkov. Damien was tied to a chair beside the desk, blood crusted on his temple, eyes tracking her with an expression that was equal parts furious and terrified. Let him go, Elena said. In a moment. First, we talk. Alexei gestured to another chair. Sit. Elena sat, keeping her hands visible, counting the guards in her peripheral vision. 4, maybe 5, all armed. This was going to be bad. You killed my father, Alexei said. We didn't. Someone in your organization did. Same difference. Alexei leaned back. But I'm a reasonable man. I understand that sometimes orders get misinterpreted. Soldiers act without permission, so I'm willing to let this go. For a price. Name it. You work for me, both of you. Damien gives me access to all his territory, all his connections, all his operations. You become my enforcer. The woman who shot her way out of an ambush, who killed Victor's men. I can use someone like you. And if we refuse, then I kill you both and take what I want anyway. But it'll be messier, more bodies, more attention. Alexei smiled. This way is cleaner. You get to live. Damien gets to keep running his empire just under my supervision. Everyone wins. Elena looked at Damien. His jaw was clenched, eyes blazing. He shook his head fractionally. No deal, Elena said. Excuse me? I said no. We're not working for you. We're not giving you anything. You want Damien's territory? You'll have to take it by force. Elena stood. So either kill us or let us go. But stop pretending this is a negotiation. Alexei's smile disappeared. You're in no position to refuse. I'm in exactly the position to refuse, because you need us alive more than dead. Dead, we're just bodies. Alive and working for you, we're assets. But we'll never work for you willingly. So you have to decide if forcing us is worth the trouble. You think I won't do it, won't torture you until you agree? I think you'll try. And I think it won't work. Elena pulled her gun. And I think the moment you threaten my husband again, I'm going to shoot you in the face. The room exploded into motion, guards reaching for weapons, Alexei diving behind the desk, Damien throwing himself sideways, chair and all, crashing into the nearest guard. Elena fired twice, dropped one guard, turned, and fired again. Her third shot went wide. The fourth caught another guard in the shoulder. Then someone hit her from behind and she went down hard, gun skittering across concrete. She rolled, came up with the knife from her ankle holster, drove it into the guard's thigh. He screamed. She grabbed his gun and used him as a shield, as more shots rang out. Damien had freed himself somehow, was fighting hand-to-hand with 2 guards. Elena fired over her human shield's shoulder, dropped one of them. Damien broke the other one's neck with a twist that was efficient and brutal. Alexei was behind the desk with his own gun out, firing blind. One round hit the guard Elena was hiding behind. He went limp. She let him fall and returned fire, forcing Alexei to duck. Elena, move! Damien shouted. She moved. Damien threw something, a chair, part of the desk, she didn't see what, and Alexei went down hard. Then Damien was on him, gun pressed to his skull. "Wait!" Alexei gasped. "Wait, we can still—" "You threatened my wife," Damien said quietly. "That was a mistake." He pulled the trigger. The warehouse went silent except for their ragged breathing. Elena counted bodies. 5 guards down, Alexei dead. Just her and Damien left standing. "You okay?" Damien asked. "Define okay." Elena's hands were shaking. "Are you?" "I've been better." He touched the blood on his temple, winced. "They got the drop on me this morning. Ambushed me at a meeting that was supposed to be neutral ground." "And you didn't call for help?" "Couldn't. They took my phone." He pulled her close, ignoring the bodies around them. "You shouldn't have come. This was a trap." "I know, but I came anyway." Elena looked up at him. "You would have done the same." "That's different." "How?" Damien didn't answer, just kissed her like they weren't standing in a warehouse full of corpses, like the world wasn't falling apart around them. "We need to go," he said finally, "before the police arrive. Vincent's on his way with cleanup, but we can't be here when they show up." They stumbled out into afternoon sunlight that felt too bright, too normal after the darkness inside. Vincent's car was already pulling up. He took one look at them and swore. "Get in. Isabella's mobilizing everyone. The Volkovs are going to come for blood when they find out about Alexei." "Let them come," Damien said. "I'm tired of running from threats." Back at the estate, Isabella was waiting with Michael and what looked like half the family's soldiers. She went pale when she saw the blood. "Is any of that yours?" "Some," Damien admitted. "Most of it's theirs." "Good." Isabella turned to the assembled men. "You heard the boss. The Volkovs want war. We give them war, but we do it smart. No civilian casualties, no random violence. Surgical strikes against their operations until they either surrender or we eliminate them completely. Clear?" A chorus of agreement. The men dispersed, already making calls, organizing, preparing for what came next. "This is going to get bad," Isabella said quietly. "The Volkovs have alliances. They'll call in favors. By tomorrow morning, half the city could be involved. Then we make sure we're the ones left standing when the dust settles." Damien looked at Elena. "You should take Michael and leave. Go somewhere safe until this is over." "No." "Elena, no. We've had this argument. We're not having it again." She crossed her arms. "I'm not leaving you. Not running while you fight. We're in this together." "She's right," Isabella said. "Sending her away now looks weak, like we're scared. Better to keep her visible, keep her strong, show the Volkovs that they can't intimidate us." Damien looked like he wanted to argue but was too exhausted. "Fine, but you both stay behind our lines. No heroics, no stupid risks." "Says the man who got kidnapped this morning," Elena muttered. "That was different." "How?" "It was me." "And you're somehow more expendable than I am? That's ridiculous." Elena grabbed his hand. "We're equal partners now, remember? You said it yourself. So stop trying to protect me and let me help." The war came fast and brutal. Over the next week, 3 Volkov operations were hit, millions in products seized or destroyed. They retaliated by burning 2 of Damien's clubs and killing 5 of his men. Damien responded by taking out their drug production facility on the west side. Back and forth, escalating, each strike more violent than the last. The city was terrified, police were scrambling, and Elena found herself in the middle of it all, no longer the scared waitress, but something harder, something dangerous. She went on raids with Damien and Vincent, her gun as steady as theirs. She helped plan strikes with Isabella, her mind cold and tactical. She killed 3 more men in those 7 days and felt nothing except the weight of necessity. "You've changed," Nina said during one of their now irregular training sessions. "You're not even the same person I started teaching 4 months ago." "Is that bad?" "It's reality. This life changes people. You either adapt or die." Nina threw a punch. Elena blocked it. "You're adapting, maybe too well." "What does that mean?" "It means don't lose yourself in the violence. Don't let it become who you are." Nina swept Elena's legs. She went down hard. "Because once you cross that line, you can't go back." Elena thought about that while she lay on the mat, staring at the ceiling. How much had she already changed? How much of the old Elena was left? The girl who'd counted quarters and ridden 3 buses to work. who'd been so scared of everything. That girl was gone, had been dying since the moment she danced in the Velvet Room, and had finally expired completely somewhere between the warehouse and tonight. In her place was someone harder, someone capable, someone who could stand in the fire and not burn. But was that enough? Was being strong the same as being whole? The end came on day 9. The Volkovs made their final push, hitting the estate itself with 20 men and enough firepower to siege a small country. But Damien had been expecting it, had fortified the grounds, had positioned his people perfectly. The fight lasted 15 minutes. By the time it ended, 18 Volkov soldiers were dead and 2 were in custody. The estate had taken damage. Windows shot out, walls pockmarked with bullet holes. But everyone who mattered was alive. Elena had spent the attack in the house with Michael and Mrs. Chen, gun in hand, waiting for someone to breach the doors. No one had. The defenses had held. When Damien came inside, covered in someone else's blood and looking exhausted beyond measure, Elena ran to him. "It's over," he said. "The Volkov family is done. No more leadership, no more soldiers, no more threat. It's finally over." Elena sagged against him. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Vincent confirmed it. "The few survivors have already fled the city. We won." They'd won. But the cost had been steep. Elena counted the losses as the days passed. 23 of Damien's men dead. Twice that many wounded. 3 clubs burned. Millions in damaged property and lost revenue. And something less tangible but just as real. Innocence, peace of mind, the illusion that any of them would ever be safe. "What happens now?" Elena asked one night. They were lying in bed, both too wired to sleep despite the exhaustion. "Do we just go back to normal, pretend the last 2 weeks didn't happen?" "There is no normal, not for us." Damien turned to face her. "But we rebuild, adapt, move forward." "Toward what?" "I don't know, something different." He touched her face. "I've been thinking about getting out. Not completely. I'm not naive enough to think I can just walk away. But maybe stepping back, transitioning the operation to something more legitimate." Elena stared at him. "You're serious?" "I'm tired, Elena. Tired of the violence, tired of watching people die. Tired of wondering which threat is going to finally be the one that kills me." His voice was quiet. "I didn't used to care. Used to think this life was all I'd ever be. But then you happened, and Michael, and suddenly I have reasons to want something else." "Like what?" "Like peace, safety, maybe even a future that doesn't end in blood." He smiled. "Is that crazy?" "It's the sanest thing I've heard in months." Elena kissed him. "But how do we do it? You can't just retire from being a crime boss." "No, but I can start transitioning operations, legitimate businesses, legal income streams. It'll take years, but it's possible." Damien pulled her closer. "If you want to do it with me." "I want to do anything that doesn't involve getting shot at." "I can't promise that." "Not completely, but I can promise to try." Over the next 6 months, Damien kept that promise. He started divesting from illegal operations, investing in legitimate businesses, restaurants, real estate, construction companies. The transformation was slow and met with resistance from the old guard. But Isabella supported it, and Vincent did too, and gradually the family began to shift. Elena worked alongside him, learning the business side of things, using the same focus and determination she'd applied to survival. She wasn't just Damien's wife anymore. She was his partner in every sense, respected by the family not because of who she'd married, but because of who she'd become. Michael finished his GED and started community college, studying business with the vague goal of eventually helping run the legitimate enterprises. He was different too, harder than he'd been, but not broken, just changed like all of them. "We're really doing it," Isabella said one afternoon. They were reviewing paperwork for a new restaurant chain, something completely legal and almost boring. "Transitioning to legitimate operations, I honestly didn't think it was possible." "It's not complete yet," Elena said. "We still have connections to the old operations, still make money from things we shouldn't. But less than before, and less each month." Isabella smiled. "A few more years and we might actually be respectable." "I don't think the Morellis will ever be respectable." "No, but we can be legal. That's close enough." The invitation came in March, a year after the wedding. The city was hosting a charity gala for trauma survivors, and the organizers wanted the Morelli family to sponsor a table. It was a PR move, obviously, let the reformed crime family show they cared about the community, but Elena saw it for what it was, an opportunity to show how far they'd come. "We should go," she told Damien. "You want to spend an evening in a room full of people who despise us? I want to spend an evening showing them we're not who they think we are, that we're changing." Elena looked at him. "And I want to dance with my husband, properly this time. Not because someone's forcing me, but because I want to." Damien smiled. "All right, we'll go." The gala was at a different hotel this time, but it felt similar to the Lexington Grand. Same expensive crowd, same careful politeness, same underlying tension. But this time, Elena wasn't afraid. She walked in wearing a midnight blue dress that Isabella had chosen, head high, Damien's hand at her back. People stared, whispered. Some looked hostile, others merely curious. But no one tried to stop them, and gradually the initial shock faded into cautious acceptance. "You look different," someone said. Elena turned to find a woman she vaguely recognized from that first gala. "Stronger. I almost didn't recognize you." "I've had a rough year," Elena said. "I heard. Heard a lot of things, actually, about you and your husband, about the changes in your organization." The woman hesitated. "Are they true? Are you really going legitimate?" "We're trying. It's not easy or fast, but we're trying." "That's more than most families do." The woman extended her hand. "I'm Rebecca Larson. I work with trauma survivors, help them rebuild their lives. If you're serious about changing, about helping the community, maybe we should talk." Elena shook her hand. "I'd like that." They talked for 20 minutes about programs for at-risk youth, about resources for people leaving dangerous situations, about ways the Morelli family could contribute that didn't involve money laundering or protection rackets. By the time Rebecca left to mingle with other guests, Elena had 3 ideas for foundations they could start. "You're good at this," Damien said. He'd been watching from a distance, letting Elena handle the conversation. "The legitimate business side, the charity work. You're a natural. I spent years being invisible, watching people, learning what they needed, trying to anticipate problems." Elena smiled. "Turns out those skills transfer pretty well to running organizations, just with less fear of being fired or shot." "That too." The orchestra started playing. Elena recognized the opening notes immediately. The Blue Danube. "That's not a coincidence," Damien said. "No, I asked them to play it." Elena took his hand. "Dance with me." They moved onto the floor together. Not like that first night when Elena had danced alone, terrified and desperate. This time she had a partner, someone who moved with her, matched her steps, made the waltz into something shared instead of endured. People watched. Some smiled. Others looked confused, probably trying to figure out why a crime boss and his controversial bride were waltzing at a trauma survivor's gala. But Elena didn't care what they thought. She was done living for other people's opinions, done being afraid of taking up space. "I never asked you," Damien said quietly as they turned. "Why did you demand I marry you that night? What made you think of it?" "Desperation, fear, the knowledge that I had nothing left to lose." Elena met his eyes, and maybe some tiny buried hope that impossible things could happen if I was brave enough to demand them. "Was it worth it? Everything that came after?" "Every second," she smiled. "Even the terrible parts. Because they led to this." "To what?" "To us. To being someone I can live with. To having a family again." Elena's voice caught. "To not being invisible anymore." The music swelled. They spun through the final turns, and Elena felt something settle in her chest. Not happiness exactly. She'd been through too much to believe in uncomplicated happiness. But something close to it. Something that felt like peace. The song ended. Applause rippled through the ballroom. Damien held Elena close for a moment longer than necessary. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For being brave enough to ask the impossible. For changing my life." He kissed her forehead. "For being you." They stayed at the gala for another hour, talking to potential partners for their charity work, making connections, building bridges. Elena watched Damien charm donors and deflect awkward questions about the family business. and thought about how far they'd both come. Then she saw movement from the corner of her eye. A man approaching too quickly, hand moving toward his jacket. Every instinct Nina had drilled into her screamed danger. Elena moved without thinking, grabbed Damien, and pulled him down as the man's gun cleared his jacket. She drew her own weapon, still carried one, probably always would, and fired twice. The man went down. Security rushed in. People screamed, and Elena stood there with her gun out, breathing hard, Damien safe behind her. "Everyone stay calm," she called out. Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. "The threat is contained. Someone call the police." The aftermath was chaotic. Police arrived, took statements, examined the would-be assassin. Turned out he was the cousin of one of the Volkov soldiers killed in the final battle, someone they'd missed in the cleanup. He'd spent a year planning his revenge, waiting for the perfect moment. He'd chosen wrong. "You saved my life," Damien said once they were finally allowed to leave. "Again. I told you, we're partners." Elena's hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. "I'm not letting anyone hurt you. Even if it means shooting someone at a charity gala? Especially then. The optics were terrible, but you're alive. That's what matters." Isabella was waiting at the estate with Michael and Vincent, all of them looking worried. They relaxed when they saw Elena and Damien walk in unharmed. "I heard what happened," Isabella said. "Is it true you shot a man in front of 200 witnesses?" "Yes." "And the police let you go?" "Self-defense, plus about 40 witnesses who saw him draw first." Elena sank into a chair. "I'm going to be famous for all the wrong reasons again." "Better famous than dead," Michael said. He looked pale. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Tired, but fine." "You're better than fine," Vincent said. "Word's already spreading. The Morelli woman who shot a man at a gala without spilling her drink. People are going to think twice before coming after this family." "I spilled my drink," Elena corrected. "It went everywhere." "Details." Vincent smiled. "But seriously, Mrs. Morelli, you've become quite the legend." Elena didn't want to be a legend, didn't want to be famous for violence and survival. But she understood Vincent's point. In this world, reputation mattered. Fear mattered. And tonight she'd sent a very clear message. The Morelli family wasn't weak, and anyone who thought otherwise would answer to her. "I need sleep," she said, about 3 days' worth. "You've earned it." Damien helped her stand. "Come on. Tomorrow we deal with the fallout. Tonight we rest." In their room, Elena changed out of her ruined dress and stood under the shower until her hands stopped shaking. When she emerged, Damien was sitting on the bed, waiting. "I've been thinking," he said, "about what happened tonight. About how you didn't hesitate, didn't freeze. You just acted. That's what you trained me to do." "No, that's who you are." Damien pulled her down next to him. "You were never weak, Elena. Never invisible. You just hadn't found your strength yet. But it was always there, waiting." Elena thought about the scared waitress who'd spilled wine a year ago. About the desperate girl who danced for her life. About the woman who'd killed to protect her family, who'd walked into traps knowing she might not walk out, who'd become something harder and stronger than she'd ever imagined. "Maybe," she said, "or maybe I just got lucky." "Luck had nothing to do with it. You made choices, took risks, refused to stay down when life knocked you over." Damien kissed her. "That's not luck. That's strength." They lay together in the darkness, exhausted and alive, listening to the sounds of the estate settling around them. Outside, the city continued its endless motion, full of people living their normal lives, unaware of the violence and struggle happening in the shadows. Elena thought about those people, about the woman she might have become if she'd never spilled that wine, never danced that waltz, never made that impossible demand. She'd probably still be working 3 jobs, still counting quarters, still invisible. She wouldn't trade this life for that one. Not for anything. 3 months later, the Morelli Foundation opened its doors, a nonprofit dedicated to helping trauma survivors rebuild their lives, with particular focus on at-risk youth and people escaping dangerous situations. Rebecca Larson ran the day-to-day operations. Elena served as board president. Damien provided funding from the family's increasingly legitimate businesses. It felt right, like coming full circle, like taking all the pain and fear and violence and turning it into something useful, something good. My mother would have liked this, Elena told Michael at the opening ceremony. Helping people, making a difference. She'd be proud of you, Michael said. Both of us, maybe. We survived. We made it to the other side. Yeah, we did. The ceremony was well attended. City officials, business leaders, families whose children would benefit from the foundation's programs. Even some members of the old guard showed up, the ones who'd survived Damien's transition to legitimacy and decided to support the changes. Elena gave a speech about survival and second chances, about how everyone deserved the opportunity to become someone new. She didn't mention her own story specifically, but everyone knew. The waitress who'd married a crime boss and transformed both their lives. After the ceremony, as people mingled and the press took photos, Elena found herself standing next to the foundation's main display. Photos of the programs they'd be running, the lives they hoped to change, the future they were trying to build. Quite a year, Isabella said, appearing at her elbow with champagne. From terrified bride to foundation president, you've exceeded all expectations. I didn't have expectations. I was just trying to survive. And now you're thriving. That's the difference. Isabella clinked her glass against Elena's. To survival. And to whatever comes next. To whatever comes next, Elena echoed. Damien found her as the event was winding down. Ready to go home? Almost. One more thing I want to do. Elena gestured to the empty space in the center of the room. Dance with me. One more waltz. There's no music. We don't need music. They moved together into the center of the room, and even without the orchestra, even without the Blue Danube, they found the rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The same steps Elena had performed alone a year ago, but this time shared. This time a partnership instead of a desperate gamble. People watched and smiled. Some raised their glasses. A few even applauded. And as they turned through the familiar pattern, Elena realized this was the moment she'd been moving toward since that first dance. Not the violence or the fear or the survival. This, the peace that came after the storm, the knowledge that she'd faced the worst and come out stronger, the certainty that whatever happened next, she could handle it. The dance ended. Damien pulled her close. I love you, he said. First time he'd said it out loud, though Elena had known for months, in case that wasn't clear. It was clear, but it's nice to hear. Elena smiled. I love you too, even though you're occasionally impossible. Occasionally? I'm being generous. They left the foundation together, Michael and Isabella and Vincent following, all of them tired but satisfied. The drive back to the estate was quiet, comfortable, the kind of silence that came from people who'd been through war together and come out the other side. At home, Mrs. Chen had dinner waiting. They ate as a family. All of them, even Vincent, who usually maintained professional distance. Just people sharing a meal, talking about normal things, pretending for a few hours that they were ordinary. Later, after everyone else had gone to bed, Elena stood at the window of her room, their room, she corrected herself, and looked out at the grounds. The estate was beautiful in the moonlight, peaceful and secure. Home. What are you thinking about? Damien asked. How different everything is. How different I am. Elena turned to face him. A year ago, I was nobody. Now I'm somebody. And I'm still figuring out who that somebody is. You're Elena Morelli, my wife, my partner, the woman who shot a man at a gala and founded a charity in the same year. Damien smiled. You're whoever you decide to be. I think I'm someone who survived, who fought, who refused to stay invisible. Elena moved into his arms. And who's finally ready to stop fighting and just live. We can do that. Together. Together, Elena agreed. 6 months after that, Elena discovered she was pregnant. The news sent shockwaves through her system, terror and joy and disbelief all mixed together. She'd never planned on children, never thought she'd live long enough or be stable enough to consider it. But here she was, married, safe, building something that looked almost like a normal life, and pregnant. How do you feel about it? Damien asked when she told him. Terrified, excited, completely overwhelmed. Elena laughed. How do you feel? All of those, plus some I don't have words for. He touched her stomach carefully, like she might break. A child. Our child. In this world. It's different now, safer, more legitimate. Elena covered his hand with hers. And we'll protect them, both of us. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, Damien echoed. The baby came in spring, a girl with dark eyes and tiny fists that gripped Elena's finger with surprising strength. They named her Anna, after Elena's mother. Michael cried when he held her. Isabella declared herself the favorite aunt. Mrs. Chen practically moved into their wing to help with the endless feedings and diaper changes. And Damien, the man who'd been trained from birth to be cold and ruthless, melted completely when his daughter looked at him. "We did it," Elena said one night, rocking Anna while Damien dozed in the chair beside her. "We survived. We changed. We made something good." Anna made a small sound, possibly agreement, possibly gas. Elena smiled. Outside, the city continued its endless motion. People lived and died and struggled and triumphed. The Morelli family continued its slow transformation, transitioning operations, building legitimate businesses, leaving the old violence behind piece by piece. It wasn't perfect, probably never would be. There would always be threats, always be people who remembered the family's past and wanted revenge. But they were prepared. They were strong. They were together, and that was enough. Elena looked at her daughter, at her sleeping husband, at the home they'd built from blood and fear and desperate choices. She thought about the scared waitress who'd spilled wine, who'd danced alone, who'd made an impossible demand because she had nothing left to lose. That girl had died a year ago. In her place was someone harder, someone capable, someone who'd walked through fire and come out forged instead of burned. Someone who was finally, impossibly happy. "Welcome to the family, Anna," Elena whispered. "It's complicated and dangerous and beautiful, but you're going to be fine because we're going to teach you to be strong, to survive, to never let anyone make you invisible." Anna yawned and settled deeper into sleep. Elena held her daughter and watched the sun rise over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. A new day, a new beginning. The scared waitress was gone. The crime boss had transformed. And Elena Cross Morelli, the woman who danced for her life and earned an empire, was exactly where she was supposed to be. Home, safe, loved, strong, finally, impossibly free.